Episode 26. First Two Steps. Richard gave a little pause and said, "She's your temporary caretaker. When did she become yours? I think you'll recover in half a month, tops. Can we talk business now?" Aaron didn't want to think about the fact that April would be leaving soon, so he said, "Go to the airport to stop Mr. Utah and his family as soon as possible. We can't let them leave the country. And you need to collect all the relevant evidence and contact Starcross Corporation. Tell them that we're planning to invest $1.6 billion in their company, but now it won't be more than $1.2 billion. And we want absolute shareholding. If they don't agree, we will publish all the evidence that proves the fact that they tried to buy our employees by illegal means and hand them over to the cops." "Brilliant." Richard pounded the table in praise, then said, "Starcross Corporation will fall into disrepute if the public finds out they've done such a shameless thing. Plus, the other companies in the industry wouldn't dare to work with them. Even if other companies have the intention to work with them, they would demand a very low price, and Starcross Corporation would lose more than they could gain. As for Mr. Parker and Mr. Utah, we don't need to do anything to them. The Starcross Corporation people will hate them more than we do and will definitely deal with them." Aaron picked up his chopsticks and began enjoying the fish in his rice bowl. A dim yet sharp beam of light flashed across his eyes as he said, "We will save $400 million, and that'll be a profit from this misfortune. Little Benny, you are so evil, but I like your evilness." Richard laughed. He then quickly had dinner and left as he had something urgent to do. During the meal, April started admiring Aaron. He was narcissistic indeed, but was also a scarily shrewd businessman. April now felt that she herself was an idiot when she tried to run Imperial Pictures before. No wonder Isaac and the senior members of the company could con her so easily. Richard was efficient. He soon made contact with Starcross Corporation. The people there said that they would take a few days to consider the matter, but Aaron was 80% sure that they would take the deal. Aaron was in a good mood after that. The next day, he went to the hospital for re-examination and the results were good. So the same day, he tried to stand up in the rehabilitation treatment room. He was a special patient, so the hospital sent a young and pretty female doctor to give him company the whole time. April was happy about that because she could finally have some free time. She sat in the rehabilitation treatment room, reading materials for the test which would take place when the new school term begins on her phone. The materials were sent to her by Professor Connor. Thanks to Professor Connor's reference, she was able to continue her university study at the Langford College of Communication. Professor Connor had known her father for 30 years and was the only person who believed that her father was innocent after he went to prison. Without Professor Connor, April wouldn't have even had a chance to go back to college. She was concentrated on reading and didn't even hear the coy words that the female doctor had been saying to Aaron the entire time. Aaron suffered an immense amount of pain during the rehabilitation training. At the moment, all he wanted was quietness. However, the female doctor had been constantly trying to get close to him, and that made him more and more agitated. "Mr. Bennett, you're so strong. You managed to stand up in such a short while. Oh my, you actually made your first 2 steps. You're amazing. Mr. Bennett, what do you enjoy doing after work? You have such a great body shape, so I assume you work out a lot," said the female doctor. While sensing the female doctor's unknown strong perfume, Aaron turned back to look at April and found that she was looking at her phone. He didn't understand why she wasn't anxious at all when the man she loved was being harassed. He believed that any other woman would have tried anything they could to send the female doctor away already if they were April. Aaron's temples throbbed as his patience had gone out. He swung an arm and pushed the female doctor away without showing any gentleness. The doctor was in high heels, so she tripped and fell down. After that, Aaron narrowed his eyes as he looked down at her and said, "I'm here to do the rehabilitation training, not to look for women. You should respect yourself." The familiar angry yell interrupted April's reading and made her raise her head to see what was happening. She then saw the poor female doctor sitting on the ground while Aaron was standing straight, one hand holding the handrail, eyes radiating coldness. "Mr. Bennett, I'm sorry. I was just trying to divert your attention. I'm truly sorry." The doctor's eyes turned red instantly. She tried to garner his sympathy, but before she finished, Aaron interrupted her again. "Stop crying. I hate seeing women cry. And the room is full of your perfume. I don't want to do my rehabilitation training here," he said as he turned towards April to give an order. "April, come here and help me." April hurriedly stood up to support him with her hands. In the meanwhile, she saw the crying doctor out of the corners of her eyes and sighed silently. "You could have tried that on any man, but sadly you chose this one who has absolutely no tenderness towards women," she thought. On their way back, Aaron called Marvin in the car with a sullen face. "By whatever means, I need you to build a rehabilitation treatment room in the mansion ASAP. I need it before dark. Prepare all the devices for me." April thought to herself, "He's wealthy. He won't care to know how much it will cost to build a rehabilitation treatment room." "What were you doing just now?" After hanging up the phone, Aaron stared at April unpleasantly and asked, "Eh?" "When I was doing the rehabilitation training, you were looking at your phone. Aren't you ashamed? You're my caretaker and I paid you." Aaron accused her unhappily, then added, "From now on, I want you to help me in my rehabilitation training." April blinked and said, "But I wear perfume too, and you always complain about me taking advantage of you." "Your perfume isn't as disgusting as hers, and you're at least not so dramatic when you're trying to take advantage of me." While speaking, Aaron looked at her proudly. April silently turned her face away, wondering what kind of impression she had left on him. Marvin was incredibly efficient. Before dark, the room on the first floor of Aaron's mansion was turned into a rehabilitation treatment room with all required devices, even more luxurious than the one at the hospital. Aaron had already known how good it felt to stand up again, so he trained hard even though it was difficult and caused him a lot of pain. After dinner, April helped Sister Emily in tidying up the house. When she came out of the kitchen, she saw Aaron stood up slowly on his own, both hands holding the handrails. It was the first time she had seen him on his feet. Ever since she met him, he had been stuck in his wheelchair, so she never realized how tall he was up until now. He was over 6 feet, wearing a blue tracksuit. He had a striking appearance that made him look like a model, not to mention the perfect shape of his side profile, which was formed under the white lamplight by his full forehead, straight nose, and lips, which were pressed tightly together, not to mention his beautiful chin. He was more charming on his feet than in the wheelchair. April had been facing him all these days, but in that moment, she was distracted by his handsome face. But of course, that was just her, a young lady's appreciation for a beautiful man. She even forgot to walk to him. When Aaron reached the ends of the handrails, his face suddenly twisted in pain, and his upstanding body began shaking. Episode 27. What should we do? Be careful. April hurriedly rushed over to hold Aaron's arms, but it was too late. He was about to fall to the ground. So she closed her eyes and held him to give him support. After shambling backwards a few steps, her back thudded against the ground. She sensed a piercing pain from the back of her head to her waist and heard a buzzing noise in her head. Quite a while later, she recovered from the pain only to find out that Aaron was lying on top of her. His face was next to her neck, and she could feel his warm lips rubbing against her ear. At that moment, the pain had nearly disabled her from thinking. In 8 days, the school term would begin. If Aaron's injuries got worse, she would most likely need to stay and keep looking after him, because according to the contract, she could only leave after he had recovered. That was the reason why she risked her own safety to support him with her own body. Mr. Bennett, are you okay? She asked. I'm all right. I fell on you, so I'm not hurt. Aaron's voice was heard from next to her ear. His breath blew across her earlobe, which numbed her neck and made her feel quite uncomfortable. So, can you please get up? Aaron tried very hard to raise his head. He widened his eyes because of the pain. His handsome face was only an inch away from her nose. I can't. My spine hurt so badly once I tried to move, he said with a dry voice. He breathed in her face while talking, completely disabling her from staying calm. When facing such an incredibly handsome, up close, with all their features aligned, she couldn't help but feel her heart thump, even though she had absolutely no feelings for him. Don't stare at me like a predator, Aaron snorted coldly when he saw the glow in her eyes. April felt embarrassed. She hurriedly turned her face away, chest heaving quickly. Soon he felt a stream of warmth from inside his body. Can your chest stop heaving? Now isn't the time for you to allure me. How can I stand that now? He complained silently. Upon hearing his words, April nearly choked on her saliva. Even though she had been trying to stay calm, her face blushed in anger. You're lying on me, so I'm losing my breath. That's why my chest is heaving so intensely. Do you understand? She said. Aaron watched her lips move. From this very short distance, he found that her lips were moist and full, and they looked like cherries even though the weather was dry. Normally, her facial skin looked lifeless, but now it was pink, smooth and flawless. It made him want to bite it. He had seen many women at her age, but only a few of them had skin as good as she did without wearing any makeup. He felt a little confused, but before he could do any further thinking, April suddenly shouted, "Sister Emily!" She called Sister Emily 7 or 8 times, but no response was heard. That's bad. Sister Emily must be doing the dishes in the kitchen now. She can't hear us. April felt anxious. She had to maintain this strange pose without daring to move at all, as she worried that once she moved, Aaron's spine, which was finally recovering, would hurt again. What should we do then? I don't want you to keep taking advantage of me like this, said Aaron with a muffled voice. Who's taking advantage? Hearing his words, April wished that she didn't try to save him. How about this? I'll move slowly. Let me know if your spine hurts. Aaron pressed his lips together impatiently. April put both her hands on the ground to support her body, then tried as hard as she could to move upward slowly. But before long, Aaron hissed in pain and said, "It hurts," with a low voice. He was suffering in extreme pain, as his voice sounded like a sad little boy. April stopped moving and raised her head to look at Aaron, but when she saw him, she nearly passed out in shock. Before she was lying face to face with Aaron, but as she had moved a little, his face was almost buried in her breasts now. "Did you do that on purpose?" she asked through clenched teeth. "What are you talking about? My back hurts like hell." He put half of his face against her chest and sensed a faint aroma that began to stimulate his body. He never thought that she was so busty. He had already begun feeling hot, but her chest was still heaving and making him feel more uncomfortable. To add to that, some undesired changes were happening to the private part of his body. He silently told himself that he wouldn't let that happen no matter what. It was explainable that his body reacted when she sponge-bathed him earlier. But if that happens again now, it would be really hard to explain, because they were merely clinging to each other at the moment. After all, he wasn't some rude and horny man. However, his body didn't obey his will. Realizing what had happened, she widened her eyes in disbelief. "You," she said, "you can't blame me. It's not my fault that you have such huge breasts." Aaron knew what she was going to say, so he pinned the blame on her before she could say a word. April was so angry that she wanted to kick him. So you're saying that it's my fault? Men simply can't resist women with huge breasts. He made it sound so reasonable and completely forgot about the fact that he had just told himself to behave with grace. But I'm still a virgin. April had started to get a little angry. Aaron remained silent for a short while, then said, "Maybe you should just push me away. In the worst case, it'll take longer time for me to recover." He felt a little guilty indeed. April wanted to do that, but she could only give up, because her school term was about to start and she couldn't afford to spend more time looking after him. "Never mind. I think Sister Emily is finished with the dishes," she said. She wanted to cry but failed to shed any tears. Aaron suddenly had a complicated feeling. He didn't expect April to love him so deeply that she'd rather let him take advantage of her than worsen his injuries. "Can you take it back?" said April with a very low voice, as she truly felt pain while being poked by that part of his body. It was the first time in her life that she was experiencing something like this. "I did nothing more than hold him. How horny is this man?" she thought. I can't," responded Aaron helplessly. April was speechless. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Aaron felt quite uncomfortable as well, so he said, "You can think of it as a pen I have in my pocket." She clenched her teeth and said, "Can a pen be so thick?" "I don't need your compliment." He sounded proud and confident. If April had hypertension, it would have attacked her by now. Was that a compliment? As she remained silent, Aaron asked her, "Are you upset?" "Mr. Bennett, do you always think things in a different way than the others do?" April couldn't help but respond sarcastically. How could she be not upset when a man was lying upon her like this? Her chest heaved and brushed against his nose. He swallowed his saliva and said, "Do you know Newton and Einstein? They all thought things in different ways than the others did." "I'm not complimenting you," she said. Episode 28. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I know. I'm just trying to tell you that smart people are always different from the ordinary ones. Actually, we just see things clearer than ordinary people do in a smarter way, said Aaron with a deep, proud voice. April felt speechless. Why don't you say anything? Don't you agree with me? Said Aaron. Have you seen another man who's as young and successful as I am? He sounded a little unpleasant. I admit, you're capable at work, but your great family ground is the main reason for your success, said April. Have you ever met a man with higher achievements than me at my age? He asked. April spent a short while thinking carefully. She had a few names in her mind, but all of those men were in their 30s or 40s. Her silence made Aaron even prouder. Many people with good family backgrounds are just loafing around. Their lives are all about having fun and going to parties. Some of them are too arrogant or lazy. As the old saying goes, rags to rags in 3 generations. I think that makes sense, he said. April suddenly thought of herself. Her grandparents were both famous intellectuals. Her father built the family business. But she lost Imperial Pictures too. Why do you look so unhappy? He raised his head from her chest, stared at her sad face, and asked. The corners of April's lips twitched. Why haven't you taken it slightly back yet? Aaron paused. His attention was already diverted a little, but just as she reminded him, that part of his body was aroused again. I said, stop complimenting me, he said. I didn't, she said. You're complimenting me for being able to last longer in bed, aren't you? He said. April raised her head and closed her eyes, wishing for a thunderbolt to fall on her and kill her. Why hasn't Sister Emily showed up yet? She thought. Perhaps God had finally heard her prayers as she could hear the sound of footsteps coming from outside. Sister Emily! Sister Emily, help! She hurriedly shouted out loud. April, what happened? Sister Emily asked, pushing the door open. She blushed when she saw that Aaron was lying upon April with his face buried in her breasts. She hurriedly covered her eyes with her hands and said, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were calling me just now. I think I misheard. After saying that, she quickly shut the door. April was speechless again. Emily, get your ass in here, Aaron yelled in rage. Can't you see that I have fallen? After about 10 seconds, Sister Emily opened the door in hesitation and asked uncertainly, Mr. Bennett, did you really fall? April wanted to cry. She even began to worry about Sister Emily's IQ. Sister Emily, if you don't help me, I might die. Sorry, I misunderstood. Blushingly, she ran towards them and helped Aaron sit in his wheelchair with quite some effort. After getting up from April, Aaron hurriedly dropped his arm to cover his private area, as he didn't want Sister Emily to see that and feel embarrassed. Fortunately, Sister Emily didn't notice that at all. After helping Aaron up, she went to help April. Earlier, April let Aaron fall on her, so when she was trying to get up, many areas of her body ached severely, and that made her hiss in pain. Sister Emily lifted her hair, checked her head, and said, There's a big lump on the back of your head. I think we have some liniment in this house. Go get her some. Recalling that April didn't mention anything about the pain just now, Aaron showed guiltiness and other indescribable feelings in his eyes. Mr. Bennett, are you hurt? Asked Sister Emily. Aaron shook his head, then told her to apply some medicine to April's head. On the first floor of the mansion in Sister Emily's room, the door was closed. April lifted her sweater to expose her waist and back. Her skin was snow white, and her waist was slim. Sister Emily paused for a few seconds when she walked up behind April with the liniment. Then she took some of it to apply on the bruise on April's side waist, and she found that April's skin was as tender as that of a baby. April, you're not 30, are you? Said Sister Emily. April was startled. Sister Emily smiled and continued, I'm a woman too, and I've gone through what you are experiencing. In some respects, I know more than some men do. You said that you're 30, but which 30-year-old woman can have such good skin? My daughter is in her 20s, but I feel your skin is even better than hers. You see, we're both doing tough jobs and often need to stay up. If you're not young, you must be taking good care of your skin, but I haven't seen you do that a lot. April never thought that the ham-handed Sister Emily would suddenly become so smart. I'm 22, actually. You know, the younger we are, the easier we can be taken advantage of, especially as caretakers. That's why I lied about my age. I did it to avoid some unnecessary troubles. Besides, people usually consider older people more experienced than younger people. I get it, Sister Emily sighed and said, When I had started working, I had met some male employers who liked to take advantage of me, too. They behaved properly when their wives were at home, but once their wives left, they'd showed their real faces. That was really disgusting. And if you told their wives about what they did, those women would accuse you of alluring their husbands. Fortunately, I was hired by Mr. Bennett. He's a good man. All these years, I've never seen him bring strange women home. I think it'll be fine, even if you told him about your real age. April shook her head without thinking, and then said, I won't. The owner of the nursing care center took a risk to help me lie about my real age. It might affect the company in a bad way if other people know about this. Besides, I'll be leaving soon, and I think I'll never see him again after that, so I think he doesn't need to know my real age. Do you really think so? Sister Emily smiled, lowering her voice, and said, April, I've been taking care of Mr. Bennett for years. Based on what I know about him, He's treating you differently than us. You see, he let you sponge bathe him. And just now he asked me to get you some medicine after you two fell together like that, without being angry about you taking advantage of him. If he knows that you're younger than him, you two might have a chance to be together." April found Sister Emily's words both funny and annoying. She didn't expect Sister Emily to actually think of that possibility. "Come on, I'm a caretaker. So all I have done for him was just a part of my job. And just now I saved him. Also, I was the one who had been taken advantage of," she said. "Anyway, according to my experience, you're different to him," said Sister Emily assuredly. "Before, a female secretary often came here to deliver files to him. One day, he was taking a nap and the female secretary took the chance to lie on his chest. As a result, he dragged her out of the mansion and fired her. If you stay, you may have a chance to become Mrs. Bennet, and that's a chance that many girls are dreaming about." "Oh, no," April shook her head and said, "Sister Emily, please don't tell anyone about that. I've never thought about marrying into a wealthy family, and I don't think being a wealthy man's wife is an easy job. I think Mr. Bennet needs to find a girl who shares the same kind of family background with him to be his future wife." She also believed that Mr. Bennet was very different from usual people and could drive her crazy if she stays with him for too long. "You're right, though." Sister Emily seemed to be a little disappointed. She liked April, and she liked to watch a beautiful story about an ordinary girl marrying into a wealthy family. Episode 29, The Chocolate Box. After applying the medicine to her bruises, April went upstairs. She knocked on Aaron's door and then walked into the master bedroom. Aaron was sitting by the tea table with a macadamia nut in his hand. "It took you quite a while. Is it bad? Should I call a doctor?" "We spent some time to rub the liniment in. No need to call a doctor because I feel much better now." April walked up to him and said, "Would you like some macadamias? Let me shell it for you." "No." Aaron threw the macadamia nut back into the plate on the tea table and said, "You're hurt. I should let you rest." "Thank you." April was flattered by the rarely shown kindness of her boss. Aaron curved his thin lips into a smile, then pointed at a drawer and said, "Take out that thing in there." April bent over to open the drawer and saw an exquisite gift box lying inside it. A series of words were printed on the box. The one at the bottom was chocolate. At a glance, she recognized it to be a box of limited edition Belgium chocolate. The small box would have cost nearly $100. She once wanted to try it, but then gave up because of its high price. "You like chocolate?" she asked. "He's so picky," she thought. Aaron snorted scornfully and said, "Who would like this girly kind of snack? My aunt brought this from one of her trips. I don't like it. I want you to eat it." April was stunned. "This? I can't take it. It's too expensive," she stuttered. If she ate that chocolate, she would feel like she had eaten money. "Expensive?" Aaron carelessly raised his brows and asked, "How expensive can a box of chocolates be?" April rolled her eyes in her heart, then responded seriously with, "If my guess is correct, this box of chocolate would have cost at least $100. "Are $100 expensive?" asked Aaron calmly. April was speechless. She felt that her poorness had limited her imagination. "It's not expensive for you, but it's a month's income for us. I think you should save it for Ms. Bennet." Aaron picked up a cup of tea, took a sip, and said, "She doesn't like sweet things." "But I still can't have it. Bang." Aaron heavily put the teacup back on the tea table and said, "I said eat it. You should cut the crap and do as I say." "Earlier you accused me of having too good of a diet while I was eating eggs and said that I could only have toast. But now you're letting me eat such an expensive box of chocolate? Will you take money out of my salary for the chocolate?" asked April calmly. Am I that stingy? Aaron responded angrily. Aren't you? April snorted silently and thought. Are you even a woman? Aaron frowned and continued, Aren't women supposed to be happy upon receiving chocolate? I'm a woman, and I think you felt that clearly back in the rehabilitation room, said April with a low voice. And I think that normally a man would give a woman chocolate as a gift, only when he wants to tell her that he likes her. Are you testing me? Aaron raised a brow and asked, Do you think I like you? April felt strange under his gaze. No, I'd never dare to think that, she said, shaking her head. Good, snorted Aaron. I'm giving you the chocolates because you saved me just now. Also because I've had it for so long that I think it'll expire soon if no one's going to eat it. Ah. April now understood why and was relieved from the pressure. Then can I share it with Sister Emily? No, he said. Why not? She asked. Aaron opened his mouth but paused. He wasn't clear about that either. He just subconsciously didn't want April to share the chocolates with Sister Emily. He only wanted her to have it, no one else. She's fat already. Do you want to increase her sugar and blood pressure by giving her chocolate? You're such an evil woman, he said. April once again felt speechless. April didn't understand how it was evil to want to share something good with others. Eat it. You're not allowed to leave until you finish it in front of me. Aaron pointed his chin at her, signaling for her to sit down and do what he said. As he had given his order, April had no choice but to sit down. Just now he had taken so much advantage of her shamelessly, so she now had no reason to eat that chocolate. However, when she opened the box and saw the delicate, sparkling chocolate pieces in it, she felt a little uneasy. Mr. Bennett, we can share. April carefully raised the box and said with a low voice, It's my first time having such expensive chocolate. It makes me nervous. You're so inexperienced, Aaron snorted. However, as April was looking at him so fawningly, he reached out elegantly, randomly picked a piece of chocolate and put it in his mouth. Seeing that, April picked a rosy-colored piece of chocolate and took a gentle bite. The smooth and thick flavor of the chocolate was mixed with the sweetness of raspberry and the aroma of rose. It was the best chocolate she had ever had in her life. It was truly a limited edition. The higher the price, the better the quality. A small piece of chocolate in this box was probably worth the price of whole boxes of regular chocolate. April felt that she was eating money or the labor value. Aaron wasn't fond of sweet food. After finishing the chocolate, he looked at April, who sat in front of him. Then his thin lips twitched slightly. He was confused by the expression that contained braveness, pity, sadness, and all the other complicated feelings on April's face. Not good? He frowned and asked. It's good. It's the best I've ever had, she said. April's words pleased Aaron very much, but what she said next darkened his face again. If only I can sell a couple of pieces, I'd make so much money. Aaron rubbed his forehead, then released a wave of coldness from his eyes while saying through clenched teeth, word by word, You want to sell what I gave you? April suddenly stopped chewing. Even the most slow-minded person would have been able to tell that Aaron was angry at that moment. April hurriedly swallowed the chocolate in her mouth and said, I'm sorry, how can I be willing to sell something so delicious? Eat them all. Finish every piece. You can't go to sleep before you finish the box. Aaron decided to watch her eat the whole box in case she sneakily sell it or share it with Sister Emily. All right, she said. She could finish the box. She loved chocolate anyway. Since she didn't need to pay for it, she decided to not think about money anymore and enjoy the chocolate instead. After making the decision, April finished the whole box of chocolate with a joyful face. Seeing the look of satisfaction on her face, Aaron gradually loosened his tightened face. As he expected, letting her have the chocolate was a better choice than giving it to that bad little girl, Sylvia. She enjoyed the chocolate all too well, so he decided to think of her first when he has some other good stuff the next time. Since he fell during his first rehabilitation training at home, Aaron never dared to do it again alone. April was with him now for every single training session. He was a man of perseverance and was able to bear hardships. Therefore, he stood up from the wheelchair in less than 3 days. A week later, he didn't even need the crutch anymore. He walked a little slowly, but he looked exactly like a healthy man, and he could already take care of himself in his daily life. On the 14th day of the new month, April accompanied him to the hospital for the last checkup. According to the doctor, he needed at least half a year to recover completely, and before that, he won't be able to do sports like he used to. After the checkup, he met with the chairman of Star Cross Corporation, who came from Japan to sign the contract with Arrington. At last, Arrington became their second largest shareholder with a $1.2 billion investment. Episode 30. Aaron's Past. After the contract was signed, Richard was in a very good mood. "Little Benny, we've won this battle. Did you see how dark those people's faces were when we signed the contract? They suffered a loss but can't talk about it. Haha. Now let's go get a drink to celebrate. April needs to come too. She's the one who made this possible." "All right, we also need to celebrate now that you're back on your feet," he said. Aaron slightly raised his brows as he too wanted to celebrate. He had been staying at home for 2 months after he was injured and desperately needed an escape. However, before he nodded, April said, "Mr. Bennett, have you forgotten about what the doctor said? You can't drink now." Richard grinned and said, "He'll only drink a little. It'll be fine." "I don't think you should go to any crowded places before you've recovered completely. If any accidents happened while you are drunk, you might get stuck in bed for another month." April smiled, saying this flatly. "But it'll be all right, actually. You'll have someone to sponge bath you, to help you to the bathroom, and to wheel your chair anyway." Aaron's face turned horrified when he heard her. "I'm not going. Let's do that later," he said. Ugh. Richard helplessly gave April a thumbs up. He was amazed by April as she managed to figure out exactly what Aaron was afraid of after spending just a couple of weeks with him. "All right, I'll invite other people if you aren't going," Richard shrugged and said. "Tomorrow's your aunt's birthday. Are you going back to your family's house?" "No, my mom will come tomorrow. I didn't spend time with her during the New Year vacation." Richard sighed and said, "Are your parents really not going to make it up? It's been so long since that thing happened. Your dad actually does care about your mom." Aaron snorted, then sneered and said, "He wouldn't have done it if he had cared about my mom." Richard didn't respond after hearing what he said. April listened to their conversation silently. She guessed that Aaron's father did something that had hurt Mrs. Bennett before. It was most likely cheating. No wonder some people said that the wealthier a family was, the more problems it would have. The next day, April helped Sister Emily ice cupcakes in the dining room. Sylvia soon arrived there. She watched for a while and found that it was quite fun, so she took part in the icing process with great interest. The 3 women chatted while icing their sweet treats. "Sister April, I think you've been taking really good care of my brother. I haven't been here for a while, but he can already walk on his own." "The credit is not on me," said April smilingly. "Mr. Bennett is persevering and has no fear of hardships. Plus, he's young and strong. I've seen many patients like him at the hospital. Many of them couldn't stand the pain during their rehabilitation training, so they just didn't do it frequently enough. Consequently, they had to spend longer to recover." "That's true." Sylvia raised her head, nodded, and said, "My brother is good at enduring pain indeed. Maybe it's because he had spent his time in the army before. You may not know this, but my brother used to do highly intensive survival training in deserts and grasslands during every season. But later he got into an accident, and we know what led to that." While speaking, Sylvia sighed. April was shocked after hearing that. She knew that Aaron used to serve in the army, but she didn't think about how hard serving in this line of duty was. She wasn't familiar with the military, but she felt awestruck when she was presented with this information. No wonder Aaron had small scars on his body. She turned her head to glance at the finely built side profile of Aaron, who was sitting on the couch, and said in a low voice, "Everyone has a different destiny. Mr. Bennett is living a good life now." "He is now," said Sylvia. "But back then, things were different. Many people were waiting for him to fail, but he managed to ace through it all. Sometimes I do admire him. I wouldn't be able to do that if I was him. Imagine how much courage it requires to start over completely." April suddenly thought of herself. She was 22 now, and she needed to go back to college to continue her education from the 3rd year so she could get her degree. She was starting over her life as a student soon. People might laugh at her, and she would bear much greater pressure than other students. She felt anxious when thinking about that. But now Aaron's story had suddenly given her some extra courage. Aaron started over and achieved his current success all by himself, so she believed that she should learn from him. While she was stuck in thought, she forgot to turn her eyes away from Aaron until he suddenly turned around and looked at her in the eyes. After making eye contact with him, she hurriedly turned away and lowered her head to continue working on her cupcakes. Caitlin arrived at 5 o'clock at night with 2 delicate paper bags. April served her a cup of tea and saw that was taking out a box of chocolate from one paper bag, which she then handed over to Sylvia. "Your grandma and I traveled to Europe to celebrate New Year this time. We got you a few boxes of chocolate when we were in Belgium. I know it's your favorite," she said. "Thanks, Mom." Sylvia gave Caitlin a peck on her cheek and then happily unwrapped the box of chocolate, dragged April over and said, "Sister April, let's share." April paused, then asked, "Do you like chocolate?" "Yeah, which girl doesn't?" Sylvia nodded. "But Mr. Bennett said you don't like sweet food." April turned to Aaron without finishing her sentence. Aaron blinked. He froze shortly, but soon afterwards he calmly raised his head to glance at his sister, then said lazily, "Do you like sweet food?" "I think I forgot that." Sylvia was hurt deeply. "Are you serious? You're my brother, but you forgot that I love sweet treats the most? You must have gotten me mixed up with someone else. Tell me, who is she?" "Yeah, who is she?" Caitlin looked at her son with interest and asked. Aaron ignored his mother, but only responded to Sylvia with, "You're my sister, but you have a very low presence in my heart, so you can't blame me for that. Blame yourself." After saying that, he walked away to play with Richard. "Ugh, I'm so mad." Sylvia pulled a face towards his back and said, "Some brothers treat their little sisters like princesses, but I'm nothing to him. I hope my future sister-in-law will be nice to me." April nodded as she shared the same feelings. It was indeed unlucky for Sylvia to be Aaron's sister. However, did he really not remember that his sister loved sweet treats? At dinner time, when April walked out of the kitchen with a large tray of cupcakes, Aaron blocked her way. The shadow of his tall and strong figure darkened the path before her and gave off a strong presence. She raised her head to find Aaron staring at her. "Do you have any questions for me?" he asked. "About what?" April was confused. "About how Sylvia loves sweet treats?" Aaron raised his brows and said, Episode 31. She was leaving. April went blank and then said, "Did you really lie to me on purpose so I would eat that box of chocolate?" "You wish." Aaron snorted and said, "I don't really remember what Sylvia likes." April felt a little speechless. "Then why did you block my way?" "Mr. Bennett, could you please step aside? These cupcakes need to be put on the table ASAP," she said. Aaron didn't do what she said. Instead, he stared at her with a complicated look. "Earlier, when you were icing these cupcakes, Why did you look at me in that way? He asked. In what way? The cupcakes were loaded, and it was hard for April to balance the tray. Aaron snorted again and responded, lovingly. April didn't know what to say. Don't look at me so lovingly again. I'll feel stressed, he continued like a proud peacock. Then he turned and left. April wanted to throw the cupcakes at his face. Lunatic, you overthink everything. Soon all the dishes were served. As it was a get-together, both Sister Emily and April were invited to have dinner with Caitlin's family. Before the dinner started, Caitlin gave April a thick red envelope and said to her, April, thank you for looking after my son these past few months. This is your salary. April paused briefly. She didn't count the money in the envelope, but she knew that it was roughly $1,000. Mrs. Bennet, it's too much. You deserve it, believe me. Caitlin smilingly patted the back of her hand and said, Take it. You've been working hard, and this money is nothing to my family. When has it been your position to pay my caretaker? Aaron frowned unhappily. I was afraid that you might be too stingy to pay her, said Caitlin with a smile. And it was I who promised to double her salary. A couple of days earlier, I called her and she told me that you've almost recovered, so she'll leave in 2 days. I was going to recommend her to a nice job, but she refused. Why didn't you tell me that you were leaving in 2 days? Aaron's face darkened as he asked April. Mrs. Bennet called me earlier, so I mentioned it to her. I was planning to tell you today, she said. Aaron put down his chopsticks. He suddenly lost his good mood for the get-together. This isn't your first job. Don't you know that you should inform your employer at least a month before you quit? Quitting in 2 days, I won't accept your resignation, he said. April knitted her brows. Working for another month? That wouldn't be possible, as the school term would be starting very soon. Mr. Bennet, it was written in black and white on the contract I signed earlier that my job would be done once you recover. Now you can eat and walk on your own, so the rest can be handled by yourself, she said. I need at least half a year to recover completely. Aaron crossed his arms and twisted his thin lips. April couldn't remain calm. Mr. Bennet, do you not want to part with me? She asked. Sylvia, who had been watching this, almost spewed out the cupcake topping out of her mouth. Caitlin was also smiling, looking at April and her son. Hate to part with you? Aaron sneered and said, Don't flatter yourself. I just don't like improper caretakers like you. April sighed and responded with, Improper, maybe. But Mr. Bennet, you don't need my help anymore. And didn't we talk about this before? She looked at him directly in the eyes, quietly and seriously. He suddenly recalled that she once mentioned that her feelings for him were already too strong, so she couldn't even stand to stay in the same city with him. April never said that. Aaron had assumed that. All right. Leave if you want. He started to believe that leaving sooner might be the best thing for her to do. However, why did he feel so annoyed when realizing that she wouldn't be looking after him anymore? He might have gotten used to her help already. After all, people would even grow feelings towards their pets. Sister April, if anyone dares to bully you in Rosewood City, if you get in any trouble or even end up in jail, just call me. Sylvia patted her chest while saying, There's nothing I can't do in this city. April didn't know how to respond. She thought that it would be better for her to never contact Sylvia again if she got into such trouble. I'm afraid she's not going to contact you ever again, said Aaron in a flat tone. She's going back to her hometown in Lukesville. Lukesville? I might not be able to help you then, said Sylvia regretfully. My power hasn't reached that area yet. Aaron felt speechless. You don't even seem to be powerful here in Rosewood City. You've worked for so long, yet you're still doing odd errands for others. Every time you get into trouble, you still come to me to solve it. Sylvia glared at him and said, Go to hell. April muffled her chuckle. If she wasn't seeking revenge or wanted to make her dream come true, she might have stayed. The Bennett family home was a nice place, and here she felt the warmth that had escaped from her life a long time ago. The next day, Derek came back to Bennett Mansion. April moved out of Aaron's bedroom to sleep in a guest room. She lived with Aaron before to take care of him at night, but now that wasn't necessary. At night, Aaron tossed and turned on the bed. He was having insomnia. He raised his head to look at the area near the window. A bed used to be there, but now it had been removed. Streams of moonlight poured onto the parquet floor, giving off a dim glow. He lay back down, still feeling a little uncomfortable. He managed to fall asleep, albeit with difficulty. In the middle of the night, he woke up thirsty. He wanted some water, so he called April's name a few times, yet no one responded. He sat up angrily. A second later, he recalled that April was sleeping in a guest room and would leave tomorrow. In the morning, he came downstairs with dark circles under his eyes and saw April greeting him smilingly. "Mr. Bennett, did you sleep well last night?" she asked while carrying a plate of sweet corn. "Look at me and tell me if I slept well last night." Aaron's cold eyes swept across April's face. Unlike him, she slept quite well. Her dull face had a beautiful luster today, and her lips looked soft and moisturized. She didn't seem to be sad about leaving him at all. It didn't make sense to him. "It seems that you had a good sleep," he said. She failed to detect his sarcastic tone, but responded smilingly with, "Yeah, I slept through the whole night since I didn't need to wake up to help you with the bathroom or bring you water." Aaron's face turned even more sullen after he heard her words, and he said, "What do you mean? Are you trying to say that you couldn't sleep well before because of me?" April didn't know how to answer his question. Isn't that obvious? She thought. April didn't understand why Aaron said that, but thinking that she would be leaving soon, she hurriedly said with a soft voice, "That's not what I meant. Being able to take care of you has been an honor of mine, Mr. Bennett." "An honor indeed. You've taken advantage of me a lot," said Aaron with a complicated look. "Since I was little, no one had ever touched my private area as frequently as you have." April felt embarrassed. Even though she had gotten used to doing that, her face was still blushed at the mention of it. Seeing her blushing face, Aaron suddenly felt better. His lips slightly twisted as he continued, "So you should be satisfied and leave with no regrets." Again, April didn't know how to respond. Mr. Bennett, please have some breakfast. I'll be leaving afterwards." She felt that she would go crazy if this conversation continued. "How will you leave?" Aaron asked, then pressed his lips together. "I don't have a lot of stuff, so I'll take the bus and then change to the subway," April said. Episode 32. Lasagna, garlic bread, and coffee. "I'll drive you." Aaron stayed silent for a short while, then said slowly, "We're going out for breakfast." "But where I live and where your company is are two opposite directions. Plus the breakfast is already ready," April said. Still, she felt flattered. "It's all right. I own that company, so I can go to work at any time I want. Cut the crap. I don't like being disobeyed." After saying that, Aaron walked downstairs. April had no way to change his mind. After saying goodbye to Sister Emily, she packed her bags and followed Aaron to the parking lot. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. The sweet corn had already been boiled. To avoid wastefulness, April grabbed some of it before she left and was now eating while walking. Aaron turned to look at her before getting into the car. He saw that she had a piece of corn on her cheek. It made her look adorable under the warm sunlight. He frowned slightly and reached out to pick off the corn without thinking. April was surprised and turned her face. Because of this sudden action, the tips of his fingers swept across her red lips. He felt that her lips were as soft and juicy as the jellies that he had touched when he was little. Both of them paused. Aaron blinked, then took his hand back swiftly as if he had been hit by an electric current. "Eat, eat, eat. You know nothing but how to eat. You must have been a pig in your previous life." he said with a mortified look on his face. I just don't want to waste it, said April while pouting with an innocent look on her face, like a child. Aaron snorted, then turned to get into the car. He believed that he must have lost his mind, and that was why he felt that this old woman looked like a child when pouting. A while later, Aaron glanced at April's small bag, then asked, Is that all of your stuff? Yeah, she answered. Aaron knitted his brows. He now recalled that she had been wearing the same few clothes the whole time. Sometimes he got tired of looking at her clothes. You can't live like this, he sighed, feeling that he was worrying too much about her. Women need to spend some time to make themselves look prettier so that they can catch a man's attention. April thought of Isaac, and a trace of scornfulness flashed across her eyes. Hadn't she tried hard enough to make herself look pretty before? It used to be an accepted fact that she was the prettiest girl in her faculty, but at last, her fiancé still cheated on her and chose Rosaria, who wasn't even half as pretty as her. I think men care more about how women act in bed, she said. Are you saying that you're good in bed? Aaron gave her a faint smile and added, But no matter how good you are in bed, you need to be pretty to get men into your bed, right? I'm not good at anything, she said. That's why she lost everything. She dropped her eyes and pressed her lips together. The atmosphere suddenly turned a little sad. Aaron rubbed his nose, thinking that he might have touched a sore spot. He wasn't trying to criticize her. Instead, he just wanted to give her some advice from a man's angle so she could live a better life in the future. He coughed slightly, then took out a stack of money from his billfold, handed it to her and said, This is your reward for saving me at the hospital the last time and pointing out the mistake in the contract, he said. April paused in shock. There was more money here than what she had been given by Mrs. Bennet. Mr. Bennet, I can't take this. Mrs. Bennet has already paid me much more than I was supposed to earn. You shouldn't give me more. I don't deserve this. April, do you know what I hate about some people the most? Aaron said with a deep voice, sounding like a strong and successful man. It is that when they obviously want something, they have to pretend that they don't want it. Do you want me to try to persuade you to accept this money? Don't make me angry or you won't even be able to leave. Take it or don't. April was speechless. She really felt that she didn't deserve the extra money. Do you know what I like about you? Aaron put the money into April's bag and said, I like the way you told Andrew Wheeler and his wife that you don't like people who take advantage of their seniors. April was surprised. She didn't expect Aaron to like anything about her. With your help, I've saved millions of dollars. I've also won quite a lot of money during the New Year holiday. So you deserve this. Aaron gave her a sideways glance and continued, You should know when to be kind and honest and when to not. Otherwise, you'll suffer losses throughout your whole life. You're lucky to have met me. I get it. April lowered her head and said she would make herself look hypocritical if she rejected the money again. And Aaron's words suddenly awakened her. He was right. She had suffered so many losses already. Some people had taken everything she had away from her, so she should act selfishly as she couldn't for such a long time. Mr. Bennet, thank you for your advice, she said. Hearing that, Aaron happily found a comfortable spot in the leather back seat to lean against and asked, Where do you want to go for breakfast? I don't mind, she said. Half an hour later, Aaron told the chauffeur to park the car, then pointed at a restaurant by the roadside and said to April, Let's have breakfast here. April was stunned when she saw the restaurant. It was her favorite restaurant in Rosewood City. She came here on the 4th day for work in the Bennet family. She hadn't had anything from this restaurant lately, so she certainly missed all those dishes indeed. However, she didn't know why Aaron picked this restaurant. Is the food here really so good that even the boss of Arrington knows about them? She wondered. As she was paused in surprise, Aaron had already gotten out of the car. She had no choice but to follow behind him slowly. Mr. Bennet, why did you pick this place? She asked. Aaron rolled his eyes toward her. Why did he pick this place? Of course it was because he wanted her to have her favorite dishes before leaving. He wanted to do this for her as he believed that she loved him so much. I heard that their lasagna is good, he said. After saying that lazily, he walked toward the restaurant. Many people were eating in the restaurant, but not all the tables were taken. There were still 2 or 3 empty seats left. Aaron looked around and then frowned as he regretted coming here. This was the worst breakfast restaurant he had ever seen. The tables hadn't been wiped. The empty bowls and dishes hadn't been put away. Everything was greasy. The people around him were eating very loudly and sounded quite impolite. Seeing the unpleasant look on Aaron's face, April hurriedly asked the waitress to tidy the table, then carefully wiped the table with a clean tissue. After that, Aaron finally sat down and his brows remained knitted. "Mr. Bennett, what would you like?" she asked Aaron. "I'll have whatever you want," grumbled Aaron, who was frowning the whole time. April turned to talk to the owner of this restaurant. She ordered 2 lasagnas, some garlic bread, and 2 cups of coffee. As she turned back, she found Aaron was staring at a rating form from the sanitary bureau hanging on the wall. There was a B on it. "I never thought that I'd come to a restaurant graded B for hygiene level in my life," said Aaron in an exasperated tone. "You have my first time." 2 girls walked past him and heard the last part of his words. One of them turned back to glance at him and April, then whispered to her friend, "How unfair. Such a handsome man gave that ugly woman his first time. So unfair." Hearing that, April inhaled the water that she was drinking and began coughing loudly. Those girls were so mean. After a while, she finally caught her breath. Her face was blushing as she said to Aaron, "Mr. Bennett, could you please refrain from saying something that leaves people such a large room for imagination?" "What did I say?" Aaron looked at her scornfully and responded with, "You probably feel that way because women have unhealthy minds." April didn't know how to continue this conversation. She decided to say nothing. Episode 33, New Identity. Soon breakfast was served. Looking at the cheesy lasagna, April felt that her appetite was aroused. She put some on her plate and then began to savor it. The garlic bread on the side just added to the flavor. She finished her entire meal in about 10 minutes. After that, she raised her head to find that Aaron, who sat in front of her, didn't eat much. "Do you not think this is good?" she asked. "You call this good?" He threw the question back to her. "I think it's pretty fine." April pouted and said, "I didn't ask to come here." Aaron decided to not argue with her as he just wanted her to have a nice breakfast. "I know a place in Rosewood City. They make really good lasagna, in fact. All kinds of pasta. I'll take you there next time." "Thank you, but I don't think I will have a chance to taste their pasta dishes because I won't be in Rosewood City," she said. "You won't come back your whole life." Aaron glanced at April unpleasantly, then continued, "Have you saved my number? Don't contact me unless you have to." "Don't worry. I won't disturb your life," she said. Aaron put down his fork with an obscure look and said, "I mean, you can contact me if you need my help." April felt so speechless. She guessed that she was too stupid to understand the big boss's strange way of talking. "Whatever. Did you finish? Let's go if you have finished. I can't stand this place for another minute. It's graded B for hygiene level," he complained. "All right," she said. Aaron grumpily glanced at her and said, "What all right? I waited until now because you are enjoying the meal." April blinked. "Are you touched?" He smiled proudly and said, "Don't be too touched. Remember this moment. It's a pity that you can't have me, but at least you will have good memories." "Yes, good memories." April sighed silently. She had gotten used to hearing Mr. Bennett flatter himself from time to time. 10:30, the luxury vehicle drove into an area with small buildings in Bluewell. The car turned a few times into the narrow roads, then stopped before a 4-story shabby house. "Have you lived here before?" Aaron looked at the house and said, "You're a woman. It's not safe for you to live here alone, is it?" He remembered that the area used to be a village before he joined the army. Later on, it became a part of the fast-developing city. The local people built some houses and factories, but since the people who stayed there were all poor outlanders, and the surrounding environment in this area was undesired, no developer was willing to invest in this place. "It's all right. The landlord of this place is a nice person. He wouldn't rent the rooms to bad people." April got out of the car, turned to seriously look at the handsome Aaron in the car and said, "Mr. Bennett, a big thank you to you and your family for looking after me all these days. Goodbye." Aaron's thin lips moved slightly. "I'll walk you up," he said. "No need. You're already nice enough to me. If you'll send me upstairs, I'll overthink it," April joked. Aaron stopped moving. Since she had said that, he had no reason to get out of the car. "Goodbye." April waved at him, then walked into the building. When she arrived on the 2nd floor, she found that Aaron's car was still parked before the building. She sighed. She spent a lot of time with Aaron and knew that he was actually a good person. If she had spent a longer amount of time with him, it wouldn't be strange for her to fall in love with him, as he had said. She hadn't been back for a long time. She opened the door to her room, put down her bag, and took off her glasses. Then she took a shower and put on a V-neck shirt. After an hour or so, she checked out with the landlord, then left with her suitcase without any reluctance. Sometime later, she walked into a stylish hair salon. Soon after she was done with everything, she saw a strange but familiar face in the mirror. She had fluffy shoulder-length hair, and those side-swept bangs perfectly emphasized her pretty and delicate face. She had snow-white skin, full lips, a beautifully shaped nose along with a pair of large, bright eyes. She looked like a princess. Her face was stunning. Her neck was slender and her collarbones were perfectly shaped. The stylist from the salon sighed and said to her, "You don't wear makeup, do you? You're really a natural beauty." April gave a faint smile. She might be a natural beauty, but so what? Now she needed to hide her name. In the past year, she had to make herself look plain, but now it was time to show her beauty again. After leaving the salon, she took the bus directly to Langford College of Communication. She waited for a while before the faculty building. Then Professor Connor, who was in his 50s, showed up. He gazed at April for a short while, then sighed, "April, you're so pretty. It's such a waste for you to be a dubbing artist instead of an actress." "Professor Connor, you know that my grandma used to be a famous voiceover artist. She's dubbed many movies from multiple film industries all over the world. I always admired my grandma and hope that I can become an outstanding voiceover artist like her." "That is also my father's wish," said April sincerely. "And it's not so easy to become an actress now. The industry is too complicated. Without backgrounds or connections, which actress can truly build a career if she doesn't want to play these unspoken rules?" "You're right, though." Professor Connor sighed and continued, "What happened to your father? It made me sad. He dedicated his life to education and art, but in the end, fell into disrepute." "Sooner or later, I will clear my father's name," said April. Her eyes were filled with pain and determination. "Take things easy. Don't stress yourself out." Professor Connor patted on her shoulder and said, "I've told the college staff about your enrollment, but you shouldn't let others know that your name is April Eisenberg. Many people from the film television industry know your name. But the good thing is dubbers work behind the scenes, so not many people have seen your face. From now on, you'll have a fresh start with your new name, April Kennedy. Let's go. I'll go through the admissions procedure with you and take you to your dorm." April nodded. The admissions procedure was a little complicated, so it was already 5 o'clock in the afternoon when she finished it. To avoid arousing suspicion, Professor Connor didn't accompany her to the dorm. Instead, she went to the dorm herself. It was a 4-room dormitory. She was a transfer student, so 3 students were already living in the dorm when she arrived. All 3 of them got surprised when they saw April. "Nice to meet you. My name is April Kennedy. I'm a new student and I'm majoring in broadcast communication," said April while looking at her roommate up and down. As art students, all 3 girls were quite pretty. A sweet-looking girl with her hair up in a bun responded first. Welcome. My name is Annie, and my major is the same as yours. These 2 are from the music major. Their names are Winnie and Marianne." "April, your name is so familiar," the girl named Marianne said as she raised her eyebrows while painting her nails. "I remember there used to be a voiceover artist named April Eisenberg. She was amazing." "I've heard about her as well, but Eisenberg isn't my last name. Kennedy is." April smiled. "But it's said that April Eisenberg has quit working," said Annie smilingly. "I guess she's too ashamed to continue working as an artist after all that happened in her family. It's a shame, though, because I heard that she's a genius. She can talk in 10 different voices, speaks multiple languages, and apparently her voice was so incredibly beautiful that a musician once wanted to make a record with her." Episode 34. She is gone. "I doubt that. Can a person actually be so good?" Marianne pouted and said, "Even if she was so capable, she might have been ugly." "No one has seen her," said someone else. "Let's move our things away from the empty bed," said Winnie, who hadn't talked the whole time. April turned back to look at her with surprise. Winnie was a pretty girl with long and straight black hair. Her voice was special and penetrative. "You have a beautiful voice," said April. "You have good ears," Annie chuckled and said. "Winnie's voice is known as the best in the music industry." At that moment, April noticed a scornful look in Marianne's eyes. She sighed silently, feeling that the relationships between the college students were slightly difficult. But then again, all of these girls would step into the most difficult industry in the world someday, so it was a good thing for them to learn to deal with such relationships beforehand. Back in the Bennett mansion, when Aaron came back home from work, he came to a prepared dinner by Sister Emily as usual. However, he felt quite uncomfortable and had no appetite. He sat by the large dining table alone. Earlier, April always sat by his side with a great appetite. She was never picky about food. At first, he felt that she was annoying, but after spending a while watching her eat, his appetite had increased a little. After dinner, he continued doing his work in the study. He felt thirsty, so he called April's name without thinking. "April, come fill my teacup." David filled his teacup and kindly reminded him, "Mr. Bennett, April has left." Aaron turned back and saw David's wrinkled face. Suddenly, he lost the mood to continue reading the files on his desk. He never had this feeling before, but now he could see April in every corner of his mansion. She would match his clothes, peel fruits for him, cook, make tea, massage him, and would accompany him at work too. At night, Aaron strangely suffered insomnia again. The next day when he went to the company, Richard saw the pair of dark circles under his eyes and joked about it. "Ah, April's left. You're missing her so much at night that you can't even sleep, can you?" Aaron glanced at him coldly and responded, "Do you think that's possible?" Richard snorted silently when he heard him. "Yeah, you just keep pretending that you don't miss her at all. Yesterday, the secretaries from your office said that you called April's name a few times during work. Don't think I don't know about that. And if it's not this, then it must be because the night was long and you were too lonely to fall asleep. Now no one will limit your freedom. How about we go to a club tonight and play poker?" he said. "What do you mean that no one will limit my freedom?" Aaron said unhappily. "Who dares to do that?" Yeah, April didn't limit your freedom, but she did manage to make you follow her words," thought Richard. All right, I shouldn't say that. No one dares limit your freedom. So you going or not?" Richard said while rolling his eyes. Aaron suddenly felt that it would be quite boring for him to go back to his mansion again, so he thought for a moment and nodded. At night, he played poker till 11 o'clock, then went back home. The next morning, he was woken up by a stomachache and had diarrhea. David hurriedly called Dr. Henry over. After diagnosing, Dr. Henry told Aaron, "You've caught a cold. Look after yourself at night. The weather is changing dramatically in spring." "What cold? I must have eaten something bad." Aaron's face was occupied by unhappiness. "It must be the lasagna from that small restaurant. I knew I couldn't go to a restaurant graded B for hygiene level, but April insisted." David coughed slightly and said, "That you had lasagna the day before yesterday. So if it's because of that, you would have started feeling unwell yesterday." "And April didn't ask to go to that restaurant. You did." "Mr. Bennett, do you think it's appropriate for you to tell white lies like this?" thought David. Dr. Henry lowered his head and said, "I think you have a cold. Do you know that some kinds of food poisoning have an incubation stage?" Aaron narrowed his eyes, stared at David and Dr. Henry, and then said, "David, call April and tell her about this. I bet she won't dare to go to that noodle restaurant again." David felt a little speechless. So it turns out that Aaron just wanted an excuse to call April. However, he couldn't speak out loud about what Mr. Bennett was thinking. Instead, he found April's number and made a call, but no one answered. "Mr. Bennett, she has turned off her phone," said David to Aaron. "Turned off her phone?" Aaron frowned and said, "Why did she turn off her phone for no reason? She's not having an accident, is she?" "I don't think so, but she's an adult," David responded. "What do you know? The day before yesterday, I sent her home and found out that she lives in Blueville. That is the most unsafe area in the city. I've heard that rape cases happen the most frequently over there." Dr. Henry asked in confusion, "How come I didn't hear about any bad things that happen in that area?" David slightly agreed with Dr. Henry. He hadn't heard anything like that either. "Do you need to hear about it to know? You'll understand that place has the worst social security once you see it." Aaron lifted his blanket and stood up. He continued, "Let's go take a look. After all, she's an unmarried woman and completely unfair with the place and people from the neighborhood. She used to look after me, so if anything happens to her, people would see me, her ex-employer, as an unkind person." Looking at his back, David's mouth corners twitched. "I've never heard you say something like that," thought David. An hour later, a car parked before the small building that Aaron had visited 2 days ago. David went upstairs to ask the landlord about April's room number. 10 minutes later, he came back down to tell Aaron, "Mr. Bennett, the landlord said that April checked out and left the morning before yesterday, not long after she came back." Aaron's eyes immediately showed a grim look. He stared straight at David. Quite a while later, he said, "She is gone?" "Yes." David felt very uncomfortable under Aaron's gaze. "I heard that she went back to her hometown." Aaron pressed his thin lips together. David continued, "It seems that nothing bad has happened to April. Mr. Bennett, you can stop worrying about her." Aaron stayed silent, brows knitted. If you're still worried, I can call Sister Leah from the nursing care center. Maybe she knows April's new number," said David. "No need," Aaron said frowningly after remaining silent for half a minute. "If I'll look for her, she might misunderstand me and think that I like her. She left because she wants to forget about me as soon as possible. That's a good thing for her." David was again left speechless. He didn't know what to say because Mr. Bennett yet again showed his narcissistic nature. "Let's go back." Aaron closed his eyes and leaned against the back of the seat. He had an undesired feeling, probably because he wasn't used to the fact that April had truly disappeared from his world. However, he understood that a man would have many people that will just pass by in his life, and sometimes he can't do anything about that. 8 months later, at 8 o'clock in the evening, April stood up after recording the last line. Supervisor Sullivan walked up to her, smiled, and said, "April, thank you for your hard work in the past month. You've done an excellent job. I've already sent your wages to your bank account." "Thank you." April smiled and said, "The leading cast of this web series both have great appearances and acting skills. The filming style is new and unique, too. It'll definitely become popular." Supervisor Sullivan laughed and responded with, "I hope so. After all, there are so many web series nowadays." April was now working hard to achieve her goals. She could have had a more stable life if she had stayed and worked for Aaron, but that is not what she wanted. She wanted to make her dreams come true. And as for Aaron, he could now walk perfectly and was focused on his duties as Arrington's CEO. He knew in his heart that he would have to eventually get used to April's absence. Will they ever meet again? Stay tuned to find out. Episode 35, Meeting Ryan. "Supervisor Sullivan, do you know anyone else who needs a voice actress?" April asked, eyes showing hesitation. Supervisor Sullivan paused briefly, then understood her meaning. He cherished April's talent, so he looked at her and said, "A new romance series directed by Ernest Dixon is about to be finished. I've had brunches together with him. I can ask him if he needs voice actors, but I'm not sure he'll agree to hire you. How about this? I'll send him the best part of your work from this online series. He's a professional director, so I think he'll be able to tell how good you are." "Thanks so much." April was surprised. She had heard about Ernest Dixon. Every star-studded series directed by him had topped the charts. If she could get the chance to work with him, she would have some hope for a brighter future. "You're recommended by Professor Connor, so that's what I should do." Supervisor Sullivan looked at her in praise and said, "Besides, you're even more professional than most experienced voiceover artists, and you have a great voice as well. It has been a waste for you to dub online series. All right, it's getting late. You should go back to college." April thanked him again, then took the subway back to her dorm. All three of her roommates were in the room. That surprised her. In art school, many students would start working with film companies or would get part-time jobs in the second semester of their third year. Annie was doing an internship in a radio station and Winnie was doing gigs at a bar. Marianne had a great family background, so she had already signed a contract with a record company, and her first album was in preparation. Therefore, she hardly showed up at the dorm. "April, you're finally back. Marianne is just leaving to attend an activity. She got us desserts and drinks," Annie said after she waved at April while biting into a piece of cake. "Nice. You're already attending activities?" April smilingly picked up a cup of juice. She was thirsty. "The company wants me to get familiar with all kinds of activities. They've sent some experienced singers to guide me." Marianne was painting her toenails. She smiled proudly and continued, "Annie left her radio station internship. She wants you to get her a dubbing job." April paused, then saw the begging look in Annie's eyes. "The female anchor from that radio station was bullying me the whole time, and my pay was ridiculously little. I got so angry today, so I quit." "April, you seem to be doing quite well in the dubbing circle. Could you please introduce me to someone? I can dub for supporting actresses. It doesn't necessarily have to be the leading actress," she said. "I'll definitely help you if I can, but I've just finished the online series that I've been working on. Now I don't have any work to do either," said April with a serious look. "Annie, no matter what kind of job you do, it's normal for you to take pressure from the seniors. The dubbing circle is also complicated." "I think you're doing it quite easily," Annie pouted. Winnie couldn't bear hearing her complaint, so she said to Annie, "That's because she didn't tell you about the difficulties. If she was truly doing as well as you say, she wouldn't be only doing online series now." April glanced at Winnie gratefully. Annie sighed and said, "You're better than me anyway." April stayed silent. Marianne smilingly waved her hand and said, All right, let's change the topic. Did you see his Instagram story? Ryan Rodriguez is coming back to school tomorrow. He's finished filming his movie." No wonder you suddenly started sleeping at the dorm again," Annie chuckled and said. "But Ryan Rodriguez is good indeed. He's the same age as us, but he's already made 6 or 7 movies. He's so famous now. This time he worked with award-winning actors in his new movie. I'm afraid he'll become an A-lister this year. He has a good background, and that's why he has great resources." Marianne clasped her face between her hands, glanced at Annie, and said, Ryan Rodriguez doesn't only depend on his background. He's good at acting, too, and he's much more handsome than the other male actors. You two take your time talking about handsome boys. I'm going to sleep. Winnie yawned, then covered her head with her blanket as she went to sleep. Winnie, are you a woman or not? How can you not be interested in Ryan Rodriguez? Annie said, and then turned to April with expectation. I'm sleepy too, responded April as she stretched her arms with a tired look. The next morning, April was brushing her teeth in the bathroom when her cell phone rang. Marianne was doing her makeup. She called April when she heard her phone ringing. April, your phone is ringing. April didn't respond, so she picked up her phone from the bed and saw Supervisor Sullivan's name sparkling on the screen. She paused for a few seconds and then answered the call. Miss Kennedy, I sent your dubbing work to Director Dixon last night, and he likes it. He wants you to go to Skyview Studios this afternoon. The door of the bathroom opened at that moment. Marianne hurriedly interrupted Supervisor Sullivan and said, Sorry, I'm April's friend. She's brushing her teeth right now. Please hold on a second. While speaking, she handed the phone to April. April was startled and then hurriedly took over. She was so surprised to hear from Supervisor Sullivan. After she talked to Supervisor Sullivan, Marianne asked, Director Dixon from Skyview Studios? Is that Ernest Dixon? Yeah, they wanted me to go for an interview this afternoon. I don't know if I'm hired yet. April didn't try to lie to Marianne as she knew that the latter had heard some of Supervisor Sullivan's words. Let's go. Winnie and Annie should have our breakfast ready at the canteen, continued April. After that, they walked to the canteen. Winnie and Annie had saved seats for them. Not long after they sat down, a commotion was suddenly heard from the entrance of the canteen. The four of them turned their heads in that direction and saw a slim, handsome man walk in. He was in simple jeans, yet looked as gentle and pretty as a boy from comic books. That's Ryan Rodriguez. I didn't think he'd come to the canteen for breakfast. Annie excitedly sat up straight and said, He's looking over here. Mary, is he looking at you? You two work together on a musical for the school. I think so, Marianne stuttered and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her face blushing. When Ryan Rodriguez walked to the table with April and her roommates with a warm smile, Marianne hurriedly stood up to greet him. Ryan, do you want to have breakfast together? Thank you, but I can't. I haven't been back for long. The principal wants to talk to me, so I'm just here to pick up some food. After saying that, Ryan Rodriguez turned his stunningly handsome face to April, then said to her smilingly, April, what a coincidence. I didn't think I'd see you here. My new movie will premiere next Sunday. Can I invite you and your roommates to watch it together on that day? Before his voice faded, almost everyone in the canteen fixed their eyes on April, including her roommates. Some of those people were jealous of April. Some admired her, and some were surprised. Marianne's face was especially shocked at that moment. April nearly choked on porridge. Meeting Ryan here was something she was not expecting. Before she could respond, Annie realized what was happening and immediately accepted his invitation for her. Sure, we're definitely free the next Sunday. I'll be expecting you. Ryan Rodriguez gave April a wink as he turned and left. Oh my, April, when did you get to know him so well? Annie excitedly put her hands around April's neck and said, You've been keeping such an important thing a secret from us? He invited you to watch his movie. Is he into you? We just had a few of Professor Newman's classes together. I lent him my notes a few times. It's not like what you think. April swallowed the porridge in her mouth and then gave a bitter smile. Episode 36. You reminded me of someone. I didn't think he'd take an unpopular course like Professor Newman's, but when did you mention this to us? You're not acting like a good friend. April smiled bitterly again and responded with, I was busy studying and dubbing works all day. When would I have had time to gossip with you? That's right, though. April has always been the most hardworking one among us. Marianne abruptly gave a smile and said in a meaningful tone, You may not know, but she's going for an interview this afternoon with Ernest Dixon from Skyview Studios. I heard that Director Dixon is working on a new drama series, which is a collaboration between two huge stars. It's not on air yet, but everyone already knows about it. If April gets hired as a dubber under Director Dixon, she'll certainly have a great future. What? Are you going for an interview? Take me with you, said Annie excitedly. April gave Marianne a complicated glance, then prepared to say something. But before that, Winnie said, Annie, you need to think about April. How could she just bring you there? She herself is going for an interview while you have no relevant experience at all. If she takes you to meet Director Dixon without his permission, she might offend him. How could he be offended? I majored in broadcasting too. I'm not as good as April, but I have skills too. I'm not expecting to dub for leading actress, but I can do a supporting actress, said Annie. She wasn't willing to give up. They usually don't need dubbers for supporting actresses, April sighed. She even lost her appetite for breakfast. I asked someone for a recommendation. That's how I got this opportunity. It's really not appropriate for me to take you, Annie. I hope you understand. Annie's lips moved slightly, but she didn't say anything. A while later, she nodded grumpily. The breakfast ended on a bad note. In the afternoon, after finishing her class, April hurriedly went to Skyview Studios. She spent an hour on the bus from the easternmost part of the city to the northernmost. At the studio, she waited half an hour in the lobby. Then the receptionist told her to meet Director Dixon in the recording room. Director Dixon paused for a few seconds when he saw her. Then he gave her a piece of paper and said, "There are some lines from the series that I'm working on. I want you to do an improvised dub for these. Remember, you only have one chance." No problem. April calmly took the piece of paper and started reading it while walking toward the recording room. Director Dixon stood outside the room, arms crossed before his chest. At first he had a careless look on his face, but soon that look was replaced by surprise and praise. April didn't know the whole story, but she managed to grasp the right emotion just from the one part of the lines. That was very difficult for artists. It was also hard for them to do an all-hearted performance without any preparation. But Director Dixon felt that April was acting at the film site. April's performance was excellent and highly impressive. After a few minutes, Director Dixon showed a complicated look in his eyes. When April took off her earphones, the warm lamplight poured on her beautiful face. Director Dixon's heart flipped. "You remind me of someone." "Her name is Rosaria Miller," he said. April's smile froze. "Rosaria used to be a voice actor as well. Because of her outstanding appearance, she's become an actress. You're prettier than her. It's such a waste for you to only be a dubber." Director Dixon had no intentions of concealing his appreciation for April. "Your voice and your acting skills are no less than that of professional actresses. You can sign a contract with me and I'll make you a star." "Thank you for your kindness, but I only want to be a successful voice actor." April smiled and said, she wanted very much to defeat Rosaria, but she didn't want to give up her dream for that woman. "Can I dub for your drama series?" "Of course you can, but it's such a waste for you to only be a voice actor. Dubbers usually can't make much money unless you're an established one," said Director Dixon. "It's an honor to work for you, Director Dixon. No matter what price you'll offer me, I'll accept it." April knew that Director Dixon was trying to tell her that the pay wouldn't be high, but her current goal was to gain fame, not money. "In that case, come and sign the contract with me." Director Dixon turned to walk out with regret. After that, a series of high-heeled clicks were heard. A group of people walked over. The woman at the front had long brown hair. She was wearing a white shirt with corrugated edges, a high-waist leather skirt, and a pair of white heels. She had beautiful legs and a perfectly shaped body. She looked like a beautiful and proud white swan. However, April quivered when she saw the face. She was surrounded by walls with nowhere to hide. "Miss Miller, what brings you to our Skyview Studios?" Director Dixon walked up and greeted her smilingly. "I'm here to talk about the new movie." While speaking, Rosaria cast her eyes on April. She paused briefly, then suddenly covered her mouth with surprise and said, "April, is that really you? Why are you here?" "Do you know each other?" Director Dixon asked. "She's here for a dubbing interview." "I almost forgot that you used to be a voice actor too. Have you two worked together?" April suddenly had a bad feeling. As she expected, Rosaria immediately responded with, "Of course we know each other. We're good friends." You should have heard her full name too. Even though she's been working behind the screen, she's quite famous. Her name is April Eisenberg. You know it? "She's April Eisenberg." The look in Director Dixon's face changed immediately. He then turned to April, eyes showing dislike. "You're not the daughter of Kenneth Eisenberg who raped a student, are you? But the name on your ID is April Kennedy." Rosaria wore a painful look, said, "So you've changed your name. No wonder I couldn't find you." "April, you didn't have to do that. What your father did was nothing to do with you. You shouldn't feel guilty as long as you're a decent person. April sneered silently. Rosaria was trying to say that she changed her name because she wasn't a decent person, right? But that woman had been acting so kindly, so she couldn't say any mean words to her. Judging by the look on Director Dixon's face, April understood that she wasn't going to be hired today. Rosaria was now an actress indeed. Clearly, her acting skills were better than before. Director Dixon, it's all right if you mind who I really am, said April. Director Dixon, April is really capable, Rosaria hurriedly said. Rosaria, I know she's your friend, but you knew that Mr. Davidson told everyone in the industry not to hire April Eisenberg. I don't want to offend him. After saying that, Director Dixon hurriedly waved his hands towards April, as if he was whisking a fly off. You should go. I need to leave, and I still have other work to do. As Director Dixon left, April turned and walked away with a cold face. Stop! Rosaria's manager, who had been standing by her side, called April's name. Miss Eisenberg, Miss Miller has been looking for you the whole time. Today she finally saw you and tried to put in a good word for you in front of Director Dixon, yet that's how you treat her? April turned back and gave a cold smile. She wouldn't forget that a year ago, this manager named Alina Smith helped Rosaria to hurt her. No one else is here. You're falling too deep into the scam, aren't you? Said April. Episode 37, Rosaria's Tricks. Rosaria wasn't angry, but she upturned her red lips and looked at April from head to toe while clicking her tongue. April, look at you. You're the princess of the Eisenberg family, yet you're wearing such cheap clothes, and you didn't even dare to use your real name. You're like a rat that passes on the streets and disgusts everyone. You're so pathetic. April felt like a sharp sword had pierced through her heart. Her face paled. What embarrassed her the most wasn't the come-down of her family, but was the fact that she couldn't use her own last name. She lost everything a year ago, but today she didn't want to lose everything again. Yes, my clothes are cheap indeed. It only cost me $20. April coldly and proudly tucked her hair behind her ear and said, but I'm prettier than you, so I look better in these cheap clothes than you do in those expensive ones. Plus, I don't even need to wear makeup. The look on Rosaria's face changed immediately. She had been jealous of April her whole life because April was better than her in terms of both appearance and learning abilities. You're so shameless, said Elena. How dare you compare yourself with our Miss Miller? Didn't you see the ranking list this year? Miss Miller is on the list of top 10 beauties. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the current entertainment industry. The girls in that circle all look the same nowadays. I can't even tell the difference between them unless I look very carefully. And to be honest, every woman can be beautiful with makeup. Even a manager with tiny eyes and buck teeth like yours could become as pretty as a phoenix with some work. April twisted her lips and said, you could only become a fake phoenix, though, like your Rosaria. After all, you may change your appearance, but you can't ever change your nature. Shut up! Elena was so angry that she even tried to slap April. April grabbed her hand and pushed her away, then stared at her with an icy cold look and said, you better be careful. This place is surrounded by surveillance cameras. Your Rosaria is trying to make herself look like a kind and innocent little girl, so please, don't let others see her throw her weight about. After saying that, April turned around and left. She was worried that she might get drowned in anger if she took another glance at Rosaria and her people. Elena attempted to stop April from leaving, but Rosaria didn't let her. Rosaria laughed and said, April, we'll see each other again soon. April quivered slightly, then walked quickly away. Rosaria? Elena stomped her foot against the ground in anger. Don't worry. We'll have a chance to make her pay for what she said. Since she's here to look for a job, this company must have her files. She won't be able to escape from me unless she changes her name and leaves this city again. Rosaria sneered and said, after leaving Skyview Studios, April regretted what she said. Because she was no match for Rosaria at the moment, she shouldn't have brought about conflict because the narrow-minded Rosaria would probably try to bring her trouble. However, she then recalled that Isaac was looking for her as well. Even if she hadn't argued with Elena, Rosaria and Isaac would still come after her. What worried her the most was that if Isaac knew about what had happened, she might not be able to continue using the name April Kennedy. Or worse, she might need another fresh start. Once she thought of Isaac's name, she felt like she had a fire burning inside her heart. She wanted to die with him. but she didn't know how to. For the next few days, April didn't go out to find other jobs. When she thought that Rosaria, who was a big star busying around at all kinds of activities, might have forgotten about seeing her, she suddenly got a call from Supervisor Sullivan. "April, what's wrong with you? My web series had been scheduled to play on a streaming site before, and the trailer is already on the air, but today I suddenly got a message that said the series isn't approved and we can't air it. That doesn't make any sense. I used my connections and got some inside info and learned that it's because we hired you as a voice actor. Did you offend someone? You must have gotten me in some serious trouble." April's heart missed a beat. Her biggest fear just came true. However, she didn't think that would affect Supervisor Sullivan. "Can you air the series if you replace my voice?" she asked. "Air my ass." Supervisor Sullivan's angry voice was heard as he continued yelling, "You think I haven't thought about that? I asked them but got no response. That means no, and it's because of you. April, I kindly helped you for Professor Connor's sake, and I recommended you to Director Dixon. You need to fix this." April rubbed her forehead and didn't know what to say. Hearing no response from her, Supervisor Sullivan continued with a begging tone. "April, I haven't known you for a long time, but I know you're a good girl. I don't want to bring you trouble, but my team put so much effort in for this web series. Our director and I have mortgaged all our properties and invested all our money in it. If it can't be aired, then we'll lose everything. We both have parents and children who need our support. Can you please think of us and think of the leading actors that have just started their careers? They all put their hearts and souls into this series. We can't afford to lose it, or else some of us might even die." "All right, I'll try to fix the problem." "Don't worry," said April with a dry voice. She hadn't known Supervisor Sullivan for long, but both he and the director were quite nice to her when she worked together with them. They never pulled ranks on her and helped her a lot, so she couldn't let herself bring them into trouble. Rosaria was so cruel. She knew how to target April's weakness. "I'm sorry," sighed Supervisor Sullivan. "I'm the one who should be sorry," said April. After hanging up the phone, she sat in her dorm room in confusion. She spent a long time thinking and then tried to dial Rosaria's old number. Surprisingly, her call was answered. "Rosaria, it's me," said April. You." Rosaria's careless voice was heard from the phone. "What do you want? Make it quick. I'm busy." Supervisor Sullivan's online series. April closed her eyes to calm herself down and then said, "Just tell me, what can I do to make you stop troubling him?" "You were quite arrogant earlier, weren't you?" said Rosaria scornfully, "and you implied that I'm a fake phoenix. Since you want so much to be a phoenix, how about I admit that you're a genuine phoenix? But phoenix is an animal, so you're sure you want to be one?" said April. For some reason, Rosaria didn't know how to continue this conversation. "Enough. I don't have time to play word games with you. But since we were good friends, I don't want to go too far. Earlier, I saw that you were shamelessly looking for a job, so how about this? I'm in need of an assistant. As long as you take this job offer, I won't make trouble for Supervisor Sullivan," she said. "You want me to be your assistant so you can laugh at me and insult me as much as you want, right?" said April. She figured out what Rosaria wanted. Rosaria didn't try to hide her real purpose and said, "It'll feel great to see the proud April follow my orders. If Isaac sees it, he'll be happy too." April clenched her teeth. She remained silent for a while and then said, "Do you two need to see therapists?" "Rosaria, have I ever done anything that hurt you? Have I ever pulled rank on you or insulted you in some way? Why do you find delight in humiliating me? You two have everything now. You're a big star. You took my family business and you both became billionaires. What else do you want? Why can't you just leave me alone? I should be coming after you." Rosaria chuckled and said, "Yeah, sure, you can think that way. We want to make fun of you because it's fun. I'm filming a movie in Rosewood City right now, so you can come to work the day after tomorrow. Elena will contact you. If you don't show up, I think your college will soon find out that you're Kenneth Eisenberg's daughter. I doubt you'll be able to continue studying then." Episode 38. April is out of her mind. After Rosaria hung up the phone, April gazed at the sunlight outside the window. Her heart was filled with despair. Rosaria and Isaac were like a giant cage that barred her from achieving anything. She tried so hard to run away, but now she was back to the beginning. Would she live like this for the rest of her life? Squeak! The door suddenly opened. Winnie walked in and paused briefly when seeing April in the room. April saw that Winnie was carrying some beer. I had a bad time at work, so I got myself some beer. Winnie shrugged and said, You want one? Yes. April took a can of beer and opened it. She took a sip and found the beer to be terribly bitter. Sitting in front of her, Winnie was also slowly drinking the beer. Her face was cold, eyes filled with tiredness. Suddenly, April felt relieved. She hadn't known Winnie for long, but she had learned that the latter had no strong family background. But unlike Annie, she'd never complained and had always worked hard silently. Everyone will encounter all sorts of difficulties on the road to success. Winnie hadn't given up yet, so April believed that she shouldn't feel disappointed either. You better be careful about Marianne, Winnie abruptly said to her with a low voice, and you better stay away from Ryan Rodriguez. Marianne has liked him for a long time now. April went blank. She didn't know how to respond. She had sensed that long ago, and nothing was happening between her and Ryan Rodriguez at all. Hearing her silence, Winnie frowned and continued, Marianne's family background is solid. I think that even the principal is afraid of her. Don't offend her, unless you have to. April raised her eyebrows. She was a transfer student, so she didn't know as much as Winnie did. What is her family background? She asked. It's said that the chairman of YCC Corporation is her great-uncle, and the president is her aunt, said Winnie. April spewed out the beer. She remembered the president of YCC Corporation. Her name was Caitlin Bennett. So it turned out that Marianne was Mr. Bennett's distant cousin. What? Winnie looked at her and asked. Nothing, I just realized that she does have a strong family background. April raised her head to take a sip of the beer. Somehow she suddenly recalled the strange, narcissistic look on Mr. Bennett's face and wanted to laugh. She also felt less depressed. 2 days later, April went to Rosaria's apartment in Rosewood City. When she arrived, she found out that Rosaria's apartment was a penthouse located in the city center on top of a tall building, covering an area of over 400 square feet with a swimming pool and a hanging garden. She was able to see the whole city from up there. How do you like my place? Rosaria sat on a bar stool holding a glass of wine. Her red lips curved in a proud smile as she said to April, Isaac bought this apartment for me. Hearing her words, April felt like her intestines were tied into a knot. She raised her head, eyes filled with coldness. I told him that I'd come to Rosewood City to film a movie, and he bought me an apartment immediately. He said that the hotels were unhygienic. This apartment cost over $10 million. Rosaria smiled and continued, He's always like that. No matter how busy he is, I'm always his first priority. April frowned and said, Did you pay me to be your assistant so you could tell me how well Isaac's been treating you? Rosaria slowly slid off from the stool, walked up to April, and said with a soft and low voice, You're wrong. I was just trying to tell you that all the money Isaac spent on me came from your Imperial Studios. It can be counted as your money that he's been spending. The atmosphere suddenly turned icy cold. April trembled in anger. She thought of how her father was sent to prison 2 years ago and how happy were Isaac and Rosaria about that. She was completely enraged. The hatred that she had been trying to restrain for 2 years now exploded. April suddenly grabbed Rosaria's arm and said, Rosaria, since you prepare to keep me around and torture me, then you should know that even a rabbit will bite when it's cornered. You and Isaac worked so hard to take everything from my family. You spent the money lavishly, fine. But people need a face, just like trees need bark. In my eyes, you have no shame, so in that case, I'll just destroy that face of yours. Then she dragged Rosaria towards the kitchen. Rosaria was wearing slippers. Since she had been living like a princess these years, she was much weaker than April. As a result, the latter easily dragged her away. Elena was startled and rushed over to help. April picked up a knife, held it against Rosaria's face. Her eyes were showing a soul-deep hatred as she said to Elena, Try and come closer. April, you're out of your mind. Put the knife down. Rosaria screamed as she was truly frightened for the first time. Clearly, she didn't expect April to do something like that. Rosaria, you need to know that I'm not like you. April's hands were shaking as she really wanted to cut into Rosaria's face. You have everything you ever wanted, while I have nothing but myself. If you go too far, I'll bring you all to hell. Rosaria swallowed her saliva. She was terrified. At that moment, the doorbell suddenly rang. "It's Mr. Davidson!" Elena shouted while running to open the door. April's hands trembled intensely. Soon she heard Elena say, "Mr. Davidson, thank God you're here." April Eisenberg's out of her mind. She forced Rosaria into the kitchen with a knife. Then April heard a footstep sound she knew all too well. A familiar tall figure came into her sight. The man was wearing a dark gray suit with well-brushed dark hair and looked very handsome and elegant. She hadn't seen him for a long time, and now she saw that the gentleness in his face was replaced by cold sharpness. She made eye contact with him. He fixed his dark eyes on her, then abruptly walked over in large steps. His icy eyes made the entire room cold. April stared straight at him. She felt her blood boiling and her mind went blank in his presence. Before she came here, she knew that she might meet him soon, but she didn't think that things would proceed like this. But she didn't care, because he would only show up to hurt her and to protect the woman he loved. "Let her go," said his voice, cold as ice. "If you do her any harm, your father will suffer 100 times worse in prison." April felt like the dusty wound in her heart suddenly tore open again, and he was spreading salt on it, causing her a suffocating pain. He was even more heinous than he was 2 years ago. He was like a poisonous snake who would happily hurt and wound her. Feeling that April had paused, Rosaria immediately pushed her away and slapped her. Her long nail left a bloody line on April's face. April gazed at the silent Isaac with frosty eyes, but he didn't look back at her. Instead, he turned his body to embrace Rosaria, who jumped into his arms. Rosaria put her arms around his neck and said, "Isaac, I was so scared." "It's all right. I'm here." Isaac dropped his eyes and patted her on the back. After that, he turned to April and said, "If what happened today happens again, your father will never get out of the prison." "All right. You two have won." April sneered and then threw the knife to the ground. Rosaria tipped Elena a wink. Elena immediately rushed to slap April on the other side of her face. Episode 39. Isaac's Tool. The sound of the slap echoed in the kitchen. Isaac's pupils shrank a little. After that, he abruptly lowered his head to say to the women in his arms, "Rosaria, you're freaking out. Let's get you to the bedroom." After he finished talking, he put his arm around Rosaria and walked her upstairs. After the bedroom door closed, he threw Rosaria onto the bed violently before she could stand stably. She quivered, panicked, and turned back to look at the tall and strong man standing by the bedside. Half of Isaac's handsome face was hiding in the darkness, and the other half was filled with anger. "Who gave you the right to lay a finger on her?" he asked. He gripped the hand which had just slapped April. When he lowered his head to find blood on her nails, he gripped it even harder and said to her, "Who do you think you are? Don't forget what you are here for. Don't think that you can do whatever you want only because I've made you a star. I can destroy you anytime I want." His tight grip made Rosaria scream. She was so scared that her body curled up. "Sorry, I didn't mean to do it just now. You've seen it yourself that she threatened me with a knife. She was trying to hurt me. Isaac, I'm keeping her because of you. Why do I have to hire her to be my assistant?" "As long as you're aware of it." Isaac looked at her face coldly and said, "If I ever see you hit her again, I'll make you suffer 10 times worse. And Elena?" "She did that because she was too nervous," Rosaria hurriedly explained. "Don't think of me as a fool. I doubt she would dare do that without your permission." Isaac gave a cold smile and said, "Rosaria, stop playing dumb with me. April fell into your lies because she was too innocent at the time. I know exactly what kind of a person you are." After saying that, Isaac turned, opened the door, and prepared to leave. Rosaria looked at his back, said in a low voice, "April hates your guts now. You can never get her back." "Isaac, I really feel sad to see you like this. Why do you have to do that?" "Shut up. You're not allowed to call me that when there's nobody around." Isaac made fists in his hands slowly, gave her a threatening glance, and then walked out. He closed the door and went back downstairs. In the bedroom, Rosaria clenched her fists. In the eyes of others, Isaac loved her so much, but no one knew that she was merely his tool. However, she believed that she still lived a better life than April, even as a tool of his, and she swore that she would make April's life worse and worse. Downstairs, April stared at the contract in her hands with disbelief. "You want me to sign up for 10 years? And I need to wash her clothes, clean her room, deliver water to her? Carry her luggage, give her massages, deal with social engagements for her, and protect her? So you want me to do all the hard work? You're hiring an assistant who can also serve as a housekeeper and a bodyguard, and you're only paying $100 per month. Why don't you just refuse to pay? Rosaria has a bright future before her. Being her assistant for 10 years is an honor for you. Elena smiled and said impatiently, We didn't want to pay you at all, but then we decided to be nice to you and pay you a little. April's face twitched slightly. I can post this online, and by tomorrow, your Rosaria will be accused by everyone for abusing her assistant. Don't you dare. Before she finished her talking, she saw a tall figure from the corners of her eyes, and her heart missed a beat. Mr. Davidson, she said. April trembled slightly but didn't turn back. I haven't seen you for 2 years. You've become much more sharp-tongued than before. His cold voice was heard. April turned back to look straight into his black eyes. Her own were filled with hatred as she said, Surely after learning such a cruel lesson from you and Rosaria, even a pig would change. Isaac ignored her anger. He took out a cigarette but didn't light it up immediately. He asked, No wonder I couldn't find you all these years. Turned out that you stayed in Rosewood City. Have you been in the past 2 years? He actually had the audacity to greet her as if she was an old friend he hadn't seen for years. April made fists while responding, Thanks to you, I've been hiding from place to place and my life is miserable. Are you happy? Isaac stared at her for a few seconds, then smiled abruptly and said, My mistake. 2 years ago, I didn't know that your father still had a good friend in Rosewood City. April felt like her heart was frozen. She understood that within this short while, Isaac had found out everything about her. What do you want? She asked. Stay here. Work for Rosaria, he said in a bland tone. If you do a good job, I'll tell her to raise your wage. You should forget about being a voice actor. As long as I'm here, you'll never be able to be one. After saying that, he put the cigarette between his thin lips and lit it. His handsome face was radiating a bone-piercing coldness. Why are you doing this to me? She asked. Why? Isaac sensed bitterness from his heart. He did it to her because he wanted to keep her around him, without a doubt. Even if they couldn't be together and he had to break her wings, he wanted her to be around. You guess. His mouth corners curved in a faint and cold smile when he said to her. April's face paled in anger. Isaac said, I still have something else to do, so I need to go back to Lukesville tonight. I'll leave this place to you. He flicked his cigarette, gave April a meaningful glance, and then left. Soon Rosaria came downstairs to give her an order. Arrange for the dresser and the stylist to come over. We need to attend a dinner party at Fantasy tonight, so you should get ready too. April lowered her head to make the phone call, feeling a little uneasy. She didn't believe that Rosaria will keep her around just to make her do things for her. Perhaps Rosaria still had other secret plans. Rosaria turned around and prepared to leave, but after making a few steps, she turned back and said to April, Change your clothes. Even though you're my assistant, you won't be able to enter Fantasy in those clothes. After Rosaria left, April quickly searched for Fantasy online, but got no results. So she called Marianne. Marianne came from a remarkably high-achieving family, so she must have been to high-end places quite often. Of course you can't find it online. Fantasy is a very low-key private club. It's not open to the public. It's invite only, said Marianne. You need to dress formally. Women should at least wear dresses. Why are you asking me this? Are you going to Fantasy? Yes, for work. April hung up the phone, feeling less uneasy. She was worried that Rosaria told her to dress nicely because she was planning to sell her. She needed to stay cautious. Rosaria knew that April probably didn't have a dress, so she took the most average-looking dress out of her closet and gave it to April. April put on the dress. She was tall and slim and looked mysteriously elegant in that simply designed black dress. Seeing April in that dress, the well-dressed Rosaria immediately felt unhappy. What she hated about April the most was that she would always be prettier than her, no matter what she was wearing. I'll leave you to be pretty for now. Tonight, I'll make you cry, thought Rosaria. At nightfall, a light rain was falling from the sky. April was holding an umbrella for Rosaria on their way into Fantasy. A cold gust of wind blew across and made April shiver. She glanced at Rosaria, who was wearing a coat, and understood something. It was November, but Rosaria made her come out in a short dress and a pair of sandals. Clearly, Rosaria wanted her to freeze. Episode 40. Drunk. They walked into a private room that had an area of over 100 square feet. The guests could have meals, play cards, sing, dance, or taste wines in there. In the room, 4 people were sitting around a table, 2 men and 2 women. The 2 men were apparently frequenters of places like this. One of them was pot-bellied, while the other one was skinny, with an unhealthily dark skin color which was probably caused by long-term alcoholism. As for the 2 women, they were clearly here to keep the 2 men company. Why didn't Mr. Davidson come? He's in Rosewood City, isn't he? The pot-bellied man asked while holding one of the 2 women in his arms. Isaac is busy. He received a call earlier and headed back to Lukesville, so I'm here alone. Rosaria handed her bag to April while speaking. April nervously took her coat and bag, then pulled the chair out for her. After that, Rosaria sat down slowly, elegantly. April's series of movements caught the eyes of everyone else in the room. She wasn't as gorgeously dressed as Rosaria, but still, she looked like a beautiful, quietly blooming epiphyllum while standing there. Is she a new actor from Imperial Studios? The skinny man narrowed his eyes and smiled, said while rubbing his chin. She's pretty. Mr. Davidson is flattering us by sending her here. Compared with her, the 2 ladies by our sides are just too average. April felt disgusting. Judging by what the skinny man said, Isaac often sent new actors to escort these people so he could build rapport with them. No wonder the company had been developing so quickly under his management in the last 2 years. His father would never let such things happen. Isaac used to be kind and righteous when he was with April, but now he would do anything to get what he wanted. April couldn't tell if he had suddenly become like this or if he had always been this kind of a man. She was so bad at seeing through people before. For that reason, she brought her father into trouble. Stop joking. Rosaria covered her mouth with her hand while chuckling and said, She's my assistant and is also my friend. She's April Eisenberg from the Imperial Group, and you should all know her. Since her father went to prison, she hasn't been able to find a job, so I hired her to help me. Friend. April was shocked by how shameless Rosaria was. The sensitive April soon found that the pot-bellied man's look became more meaningful after he heard Rosaria's words. Ah, so she's Kenneth Eisenberg's daughter, he said. Mr. Lennox, do you know Chairman Eisenberg? Rosaria asked, pretending to be surprised. Chairman my ass. He was just fishing for fame and credit. If that man could be a real chairman, I'd become a governor. Mr. Lennox laughed scornfully. Yes, I know him, Kenneth Roald Eisenberg. When he was still the chairman of Imperial Corporation, I spent $10 million to invest in one of his movies so I could sleep with his actresses. But he refused and gave me my money back. After that, he told the public that he despised people like me. I was wondering how virtuous he was, but it turned out that he is nothing more than this. Every single word he said was like a hammer hitting heavily on April's heart. She wanted to stand up and pour a glass of water on his face, but she couldn't do that. She had no choice but to stay silent. She could be slow-minded sometimes, but she had a feeling that this dinner party wasn't so simple. Mr. Lennox, don't say that in front of April. That man's her father, after all, said Rosaria. Rosaria, you're too nice. Mr. Lennox laughed. If April Eisenberg really treated you as her friend, her powerful dad should have made you a star long ago. But instead, you had to wait for Isaac to do that for you. Don't you try to sow discord between us, said Rosaria with a soft voice. All right, enough about her. Come on, let's have something to drink, Mr. Lennox said and began pouring out his wine. April silently looked at the people in the room. Rosaria, it was so unfair for you to only win a newcomer award this year. You should be awarded as Best Actress. You're so good at acting, she thought. While April was thinking, Rosaria kicked her gently under the table, then mouthed at her, Drink for me. Mr. Lennox and the other man called Supervisor Holt were proposing a toast to Rosaria. So as her assistant, April should now put herself forward and do the drinking for her. However, she wasn't stupid. She couldn't tell if these people were trying to make her drunk, but Rosaria, who used to be her good friend, knew exactly of her drinking capacity. She pretended that nothing had happened while nicely picking a piece of chicken into Rosaria's rice bowl. You're trying to stay in shape, but I'll make you fat, she thought. Rosaria was so angry, but she couldn't show it on her face. She gave an even warmer smile. finished a glass of wine, then put a hand on her forehead while waving another, saying, "I still need to talk to Isaac over the phone tonight. If he finds me being drunk, he'd lecture me again. I'll let my assistant drink with you. She has a good capacity for alcohol." April sneered. "Now you're revealing your true purpose," she thought. "In this case, Miss Eisenberg." Mr. Lennox directly poured April a cup full of sangria. "April, don't worry, just drink. I'll send you back if you get drunk," said Rosaria keenly. At this point, April had no choice but to do what Rosaria said. Before, she would get drunk on 3 glasses of sangria. After coming to Rosewood City, she had managed to turn that number into 4 through practice. She finished 2 glasses of her wine and then began to feel dizzy, so she hurriedly stood up and said, "I need to go to the bathroom." "Go, we have one in our room." Mr. Lennox pointed at the right side of the room with a faint smile. April clenched her teeth. It seemed that these people wouldn't give her a chance to run away. After getting into the bathroom, she closed the door and took out her phone, trying to call someone to help her. However, she looked through her contact lists and found that she didn't have any friends in Rosewood City. She thought for a moment, then called Winnie. The call was answered and some noises were heard from the phone. April guessed that Winnie was working in the bar at the moment. "Winnie, I'm in Fantasy Club. Can you please come here? I'm at a dinner party now and I might get into some trouble later. I need an excuse to leave, but of course, if you're too busy..." "That's all right. I'll be on my way," Winnie interrupted her. "Don't lose your phone. Contact me anytime you need. If the situation gets urgent, I'll call the police," said Winnie. Hearing that, April was relieved a little. She washed her face, then went out. The 2 women who were supposed to keep the 2 men company had left already. "Miss April, you've spent a rather long while in the bathroom." Mr. Lennox stood up, face flushed. He put an arm on April's shoulder while trying to thrust another drink in her hand. "Mr. Lennox, I'm really drunk. I can't have any more." April pushed his hand away. "Little girl, I'm showing you my respect by offering this. Don't think of yourself like a princess. Your father is in prison and he can't protect you now." Mr. Lennox grinned and warned April, "I'm telling you this. I'm one of the shareholders of this club, so without my word, you won't be able to leave this place." April's heart began thumping. She glanced at Rosaria but found that the latter was looking at her phone and texting someone smilingly as if everything in this room had nothing to do with her. At that moment, April figured out everything. However, she didn't think that Mr. Lennox would be a shareholder of this club. In this case, it would be really difficult for her to get out. "All right, Mr. Lennox, I'll accept your respect." April gritted her teeth and finished her drink. A couple of minutes later, she pretended to be drunk, lying on the table as if she was falling unconscious. Mr. Lennox pushed her a few times, but she didn't open her eyes. Episode 41. Are you really April? She's already drunk. This girl is a wimpy drinker. Mr. Lennox laughed and said, "All right, she can only drink this much." Rosaria stood up with her purse and said, "Mr. Lennox, I'll go with Supervisor Holt now and leave her to you. Have a good time." "Mr. Lennox, you're really lucky. Don't forget to let me know when you're done with her." Supervisor Holt patted Mr. Lennox on the shoulder, then left with Rosaria. Hearing the door slam, April's heart sank. She was pretending to be drunk. She could never have thought that this dinner party was arranged for this very purpose. Who planned all of this? Rosaria? Isaac? Judging by what Rosaria said, Isaac knew about what had happened. "Isaac, we used to be together no matter what. I gave you so much, but you didn't love me. You've humiliated me as much as you wanted, which is fine now, but did you have to do this to me too?" At that moment, she was completely disappointed with that man. Click. She heard the door lock and then saw Mr. Lennox walk toward her. She lied on the table filled with dishes and wine bottles and glanced around through her narrowed eyes. If she wanted to run, she needed to do it while Mr. Lennox was unprepared. She wouldn't have a chance to escape if he found out that she was pretending to be drunk because she couldn't possibly win the wrestle against him. That was the reason why she pretended to be drunk. Kenneth Eisenberg. Kenneth Eisenberg. Do you remember how arrogant you used to be? You despised me, but did you ever think that one day your precious daughter would be destroyed by me? Mr. Lennox took off his coat while smirking, then bent over to hold April. Right at that moment, April picked up a wine bottle and smashed it fiercely on his head. It was the first time she had ever hit anyone. She used only about 70% of her strength, as she was afraid that she might kill him if she hit him with her full strength. Mr. Lennox suffered a bottle strike and had blood gushing out of his head. He instantly felt dizzy. April took the opportunity to shove him away, then opened the door and rushed out. Earlier, when she came in, she had memorized the route. When she ran to the second floor, she found that a couple of security guards were standing by the main entrance of the club and seemed to be looking for someone. She didn't feel right, so she turned back to walk upstairs. She had to hide to avoid running into the groups of security guards patrolling the club. "What's going on?" a passing guest murmured. "I heard that someone attacked a shareholder of this club, and they're looking for the attacker." "How dare anyone attack Fantasy's people? Who would be so audacious? This attacker is throwing their own life away." April gave a bitter smile. This time, Rosaria had pushed her into a big trap. Even if she managed to get out, she would still be in trouble. She glanced at the surveillance camera above her head, then continued moving. She picked only the camera's blind spots to sneak past, and at last she had come to a dead end with nothing but a washroom in that area. The washroom was quiet, seeming to be empty. She thought for a moment, then sneaked into the men's room. Normally, women tended to hide in the ladies' room, so the men's room was relatively safer for her in the current situation. She hid in a stall and soon heard footsteps from the outside. Before long, the sounds of running water could be heard from the quiet washroom. April blushed slightly. She just hoped that whoever was using the toilet could leave as soon as possible. At that moment, dog barks were suddenly heard from the outside, and a dog began scratching the door of the washroom. April was so nervous that her heart started pounding. "Mr. Lennox hasn't sent out hounds to find me, has he?" she thought. "Why are you barking? Is someone in there?" She heard a man's voice, which was very pleasant. She felt like she had heard that voice somewhere before. In her emergency, she showed her resourcefulness. "What else could be in here? Someone's using the bathroom," she responded with a deep and dry voice, making herself sound like a man. At that very moment, she really wanted to thank herself for learning to be a voice actor because she was able to make herself sound like almost any creature in the world. The man outside remained silent for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed with a deep voice and said, "Yeah? My dog used to be a police dog, so he wouldn't bark for no reason. He barked because something suspicious is in there. You better show your face or I'll call security." "Something suspicious? Which part of me is suspicious? I bet the dog has something wrong with its nose," thought April. "How unlucky am I? I'm hiding in the toilet, but still a crazy dog detected me?" Based on what the dog owner said, it seemed like he was a guest of the club instead of a security guard. Forget it. If he asks about why I'm in the men's room later, I'll tell him that I'm a trans man and that I can only use the men's room. She took a deep breath, then opened the door of her stall. Before she could see who was out there, a giant black and white dog pounced on her. She was so frightened that her entire body tightened. She thought that she would be bitten by the dog, but instead the dog sprung into her arms and licked her face with excitement. April felt her legs relax. The dog was gigantic, but she was shocked by how friendly he was. However, she noticed that the dog looked a little familiar. The man outside yanked the dog's leash while yelling, "Richard, come over here. What are you doing?" "I know you want to fall in love, but she's a human, not a dog." The dog seemed very obedient to him. He howled and let himself be dragged to the side, but didn't stop happily wagging his tail to April. April caught her breath and looked at the man outside. He was tall and strong. His brown Gucci suit emphasized his perfect body shape and matched with a dark-colored shirt underneath. It seemed that he was a bit tipsy after some drinks, as his shirt collar buttons were open and his jacket was unbuttoned. He was standing under the warm light of the retro-styled washroom, occupying the whole space with his charming vibe. Seeing his face, April paused in shock. Mr. Aaron Bennett. She would have never thought that he'd be the one standing outside the stall she was hiding in. No wonder his voice sounded familiar. And the dog was named Richard. Was it the same Richard? She hadn't seen Richard in 8 months, but he had already become so much chubbier than before. She curiously looked at Richard, who was now squatting in a corner. She wasn't afraid of him anymore, but found him rather adorable. Her side profile was stunning. Her eyes were halfway drooped, and her eyelashes looked like butterfly wings, leaving a series of beautiful shadows under the lamplight. Looking at her face, Aaron found it extremely familiar. He frowned, staring at her from head to toe. He always had a good memory. He could tell for sure that he had met her before, but couldn't recall where or when. Yet he had no explanation to forget such a beautiful woman, even though he wasn't an amorous man. "Who are you? Why are you hiding in the men's room?" shouted Aaron as he took a step forward and pinched her chin to turn her face to him. He gazed straight at her, looking at her pink, cherry-like lips and her dark but bright eyes. His heart flipped as her name escaped his mouth. April. After saying that, he regretted it. He had doubted April could become so pretty. He thought that he could be mistaken because there were so many women in the world who looked alike. As he prepared to apologize, April smiled sheepishly and said, "Mr. Bennett, long time no see." "Are you really April?" said Aaron with surprise. Suddenly, the look on his face turned weird. He put down his hand, then began looking at her up and down as if he was a scanner. She was wearing a black dress that made her skin look as beautiful as jade. Her body was beautifully shaped, and her hair was slightly curled while hanging loosely over her shoulder. She seemed so mysterious, bright, and beautiful. Episode 42. This Woman. She not only became prettier, but also looked a lot younger than before. She now looked like a 20-year-old girl, so full of youthful spirit. Aaron spent a while in a trance, then said slowly, with a very complicated tone, "I haven't seen you in a while. You must have gotten plastic surgery." April was speechless. "You've been trying really hard to attract my attention," Aaron sighed. "But didn't you say that you went back to Lukesville? Why are you still in Rosewood City?" April didn't know how to respond. Her lips twitched, feeling that Mr. Bennett had become even more narcissistic than before. But somehow, the uneasy April, who was stuck in a difficult situation, suddenly felt relieved when she saw Aaron. It was probably because she knew that he was a proud but nice man who only looked cold and hard to get along with. Seeing her remain silent, Aaron nodded and continued, "That makes sense. The plastic surgery centers in Rosewood City are much better than those in Lukesville. It is indeed safer for you to do your surgery here, but you should have told me, as my company has invested in quite a few beauty institutions. I could have called them and maybe I could have gotten you a 90% discount." April sighed silently. She couldn't let him continue using his imagination, so she said, "Mr. Bennett, I did not have plastic surgery." Aaron chuckled and responded with, "Every woman who gets plastic surgery says that." April again didn't know how to respond. "But why are you hiding in the men's room?" Aaron suddenly noticed their current situation, so his handsome face was suddenly occupied by a strange look. "You're not here to peek at the men who come here to use the toilet, are you?" "How could that be possible?" April's face blushed immediately. "I might believe you if you were another woman, but you've done such things before." Aaron gave her a sideways glance and said, "You've always liked to peep at my private part. Who knows if you have a repulsive addiction?" "I was sponge baiting you, all right?" April was so speechless she hadn't met any other man who was as good at blaming people as he was. "I hurt someone. That's why I'm hiding here." Aaron raised his eyebrows and asked, "But why didn't you hide in the ladies' room? It seems that your choice was made in an urgent situation has revealed your peeper's soul." April honestly didn't know how to continue the conversation. "I did it after consideration. Normally women tend to hide in the ladies' room, so I did the exact opposite." Aaron knitted his brows, seeming to be thinking about whether or not he should believe her words. As he prepared to say something, the disordered footsteps and the sounds of voices could be heard from the outside. "I've seen the surveillance video. I think she's come this way. Let's see if we can find her here." "They're here for me. I need your help." April knew that she had nowhere to hide. It was already too late for her to hide in a toilet stall. "Who did you offend?" Before Aaron finished his words, he saw that April suddenly pulled off a strap of her dress, then jumped into his arms. Right after that, 4 or 5 security guards broke in. When Aaron turned to look at them, April already put her arms around his neck to hold him tight. She even began complaining to him with a soft and seductive voice. "I told you not to do it here. See, so many people are here," she said. Her voice was sweet and as soft as water. Aaron froze immediately, as if an electric current had gone through his body. April was holding him so tight that almost every part of their bodies was pressed together. The aroma of her hair and her soft body made a warmth rise straight to his head from his lower belly. This woman. Aaron felt that his body was on fire, as if he had really done something with her here in this washroom. How could she even say something like that? She's so shameless, he thought. Sorry, I don't know that you're in the toilet." The few security guards who broke in were embarrassed by this scene as well and didn't know what to do. After all, the guests of this club were either wealthy or high-positioned, so these security guards couldn't afford to offend any of them. "Please, continue. Please." While speaking, they hurriedly turned back to leave. One of them couldn't help but turn around to remind Aaron, "Actually, we have rooms upstairs, luxuriously decorated." Aaron turned his head with a grim look and said, I like doing it in the toilet. What's wrong about it? The security guy's face blushed, thinking that rich people do have strange preferences these days. My bad. I'll leave you two alone. After saying that, he didn't dare to linger for another second. Hearing the footsteps fading away, April hurriedly struggled out of Erin's arms and pulled her shoulder strap back up as soon as possible. While doing that, her face blushed scarlet. For the first time in her life, she had done something so ridiculous. Now, as she had calmed down and thought about what she did, she felt utterly embarrassed. Why on earth did I do that? She thought. Sorry, Mr. Bennett, it was urgent. April tucked her hair behind her ear and said apologetically, You know. Erin stared at her. His handsome face had somehow turned dark as he felt an emptiness around his chest after she freed herself from his arms. I don't know, he said. Hearing that, April wanted to bite her tongue off. Normally, people would react instinctively under an urgent situation. Erin squinted at her and said, You reacted surprisingly fast. You imagined that many times, haven't you? Huh? April was confused. I haven't seen you for so long, but you haven't changed at all. You're still trying everything you can to take advantage of me. You won't miss any chance. I don't even know if I should compliment you for your fast reaction or accuse you of being shameless. He looked down at her, snorted like a proud peacock, and then continued, But I have many friends in this club. Do you have any idea how badly it might affect my reputation if the others heard about what happened just now? The people who know nothing about the truth might think that I'm a horny man. Before April could feel speechless for the first part of his speech, she was embarrassed by what he said next. I'm sorry, she said. As long as you know that you've done a wrong thing. Next time, pay attention to your deeds. Erin interrupted her and said, Fortunately, I'm the one you ran into. Other men might not be able to stay as calm as I am. April pressed her lips together. Erin continued talking. Tell me, who did you hurt? What exactly happened? They've sent out a large group of people to look for you. It seems that you've offended a powerful man. You managed to dodge them just now, but it's still a little difficult for you to get out of this club. I heard that he's one of the club's shareholders. I only know that he's called Mr. Lennox. Earlier at dinner, he tried to make me drunk deliberately and attempted to take advantage of me. I had no choice but to attack him with a wine bottle and then ran out. Facing Erin's game, April's heart was warmed, so he told him what happened. She understood that she needed his help to get out of the club tonight. I thought this a decent club. I never knew that such a thing could happen here. He knitted his brows, eyes showing a deep disgust. You did the right thing. Women should learn to protect themselves, indeed. April paused. Her heart, which had been submerged in coldness and helplessness, now sensed a faint warmth. She prepared to say something, but suddenly Erin continued with a deep voice. But that Mr. Lennox is so desperate for women that he'd even take one who has had plastic surgeries. Episode 43. I don't have a boyfriend. April didn't know how to respond. All right, I shouldn't have felt touched. Don't worry. After all, you used to take care of me. I won't let anything happen to you in this place. While speaking, Erin took out his phone and turned to make a phone call. Hello, Chief Garner? I want to report something to you. I'm in the fantasy club at the moment, and I've accidentally discovered that some improper trading is happening in this place. You should send your people as soon as possible. It's all right. Reporting things like this is the duty of every citizen. April's mouth corners twitched slightly. Do you have to make it sound so righteous? She had thought about calling the police before, however, she also understood that such a large private club must have a solid background in Rosewood City, so calling the police wouldn't have been helpful to her. But to her surprise, Erin directly called the police chief to report this. Rich and powerful people are living a different life indeed. After hanging up the phone, Erin turned back to find that April's eyes were sparkling beautifully under the lamplight, and she was wearing such a thin dress that it seemed to need some protection. He praised her in his head. She has a much better sense of fashion than before. Relax. After tonight, Mr. Lennox will spend the rest of his life in prison. He won't be able to bring you any trouble, he said. April gave a start and said, Can the police find any proof? This club should have a strong background, right? Whatever background they have, it's nothing in comparison with the Bennett family. Erin gave a scornful smile and said, The police can find any proof they want in a place like this. Why do you think that group of women by the front door are here? Besides, the police will visit without warning, so the people won't have enough time to run. You're right. April nodded, then raised her head and said gratefully, "Thank you, Mr. Bennett." Aaron felt a little uncomfortable under her gaze. He never noticed it before, but now he felt that her eyes were extremely alluring. "Where's your coat?" he asked. "I didn't wear one," she responded awkwardly. As she had expected, Aaron's face darkened after he heard what she said. "It's so cold, but you came out wearing such a thin piece of dress. No wonder some man tried to do things to you." April lowered her head. She knew that he would think that way. "It's not what you think," she tried to explain. "If it's not like what I said, did you wear like this on purpose because you knew that I was going to be here?" he asked without thinking. "That's not true either," said April. "Did Sister Emily tell you that I'm here? Or Marvin?" Aaron continued asking questions with a serious look. "You got along with Sister Emily and Marvin quite well before. You were really thinking ahead." April didn't know what to say. "It's you who has been thinking ahead." April decided to change the topic. "Should we get out? This is the men's room after all. People may come in at any time." "Now you know that people may come in," Aaron sneered and responded. He turned, made 2 steps, then suddenly turned back. April, who followed close behind him, wasn't prepared for that. She bumped into his chest. Her nose hit his strong chest muscles. It hurt so badly that it squeezed a few teardrops out of her eyes. "Mr. Bennett, why did you stop so suddenly?" she asked. Her voice was soft. She didn't realize that she sounded like she was grumbling in a flirty manner. Aaron lowered his head to look at her. Without any preparation, he saw her snow-white chest and her cleavage. He blinked, knitted his brows, then took off his brown-colored jacket and put it around her shoulders. After that, he warned her, "Next time, wear more clothes when you try to allure me. Don't catch a cold." The unique manly vibe that belonged to the jacket immediately wrapped her up. April's body was warmed. So was her heart. Maybe it was because she was exhausted, but she didn't try to argue with him. Instead, she simply responded with a hum. But of course, arguing was unlikely to be helpful to her. "I knew that she came to the club wearing something like this because of me," thought Aaron. She's so dumb. He had seen so many women in all sorts of dresses, so he believed that he would never be allured by a black dress, even though she was the prettiest one among all the women he had seen. However, he believed that he wouldn't be impressed just so easily. After getting out of the washroom, April saw that Marvin walked over and said to Aaron, "Mr. Bennett, you've been out for long. I thought you were drunk." His eyes were fixed on April while he was speaking. When giving her a closer look, he paused briefly, then asked, "This is—" "Hi, Marvin, it's April." April hurriedly greeted him with a smile. "Do you remember me?" "Miss April." Marvin was surprised. His gentle eyes were immediately filled with shock. "I didn't recognize you. You're so much prettier. I was so blind before that I failed to find that you're actually so beautiful." April smiled. Meanwhile, she couldn't help but glance at Aaron. That's how normal people greet each other when they meet again after a long separation. "What he said is so much more pleasant than your words." She wanted to tell Aaron this. Aaron, who stood beside her, frowned grumpily because April didn't smile so bright when she saw him. But then he thought that she might be trying to hide her true feelings back then. She always liked to conceal her real emotions anyway. He also felt that it was unnecessary for April and Marvin to pretend that they hadn't seen each other for so long, because he believed that Marvin was the one who leaked his whereabouts, and he should be in secret contact with April this whole time. "How can just a couple of glasses of wine make me drunk?" Aaron interrupted the conversation between April and Marvin, which he believed was an act, and said, "Let's go. Police will soon arrive at this place. I don't want to stay here any longer." Marvin was confused. As he prepared to ask about what had happened, April's phone began ringing. April checked her phone and saw Winnie's number. Only after that did she recall that she had called Winnie for help. She hurriedly answered the call, then heard Winnie's anxious voice saying, "I'm right at the front door, but I can't get in. This is such a fancy place, but what's happening here? There's a lot of security guards by the door." "Don't try getting in. I'm coming out," said April with a low voice. After hanging up the phone, she said to Aaron, "Mr. Bennett, my friend is here to pick me up." "Boyfriend? I wonder who's that lucky guy. How did he manage to be with such a pretty girl?" said Marvin without thinking. Aaron blankly glanced at him, wondering why he didn't find out before that his assistant is actually so dumb. He believed that he was the only man that April wanted to be with, so she couldn't possibly be with another man. Besides, since she had met him, how could she ever like any other man? Marvin didn't know why Aaron looked at him like that, but had faintly sensed that his boss wasn't happy, so he asked, nervously, "Mr. Bennett, did I say something wrong?" "No." Aaron slightly moved his nicely shaped thin lips. "I don't have a boyfriend," April explained. "That's a female friend of mine." "Let's go downstairs." Aaron threw the dog leash to Marvin, then rested his hands in his pocket and began walking downstairs. April followed him downstairs. Walking behind the super-rich Aaron, April now feared nothing. Marvin walked by her side. Richard was clinging onto April's leg. When she worked in the Bennett family, she used to give Richard a lot of delicious treats every time she cooked a meal. So even though she was only there for a short time, Richard liked her very much. "Marvin, how come Richard has gained so much weight?" April rubbed Richard's head. Couldn't help but ask. "He was disappointed in a love affair," Marvin responded smilingly. "Earlier he fell in love with a Pomeranian, but that girl didn't have a crush on him. After that, he started overeating." Episode 44. When he was young. April chuckled and said, "I can't imagine the huge Richard falling in love with a tiny Pomeranian. He could literally crush it, right? It's perfectly normal that the Pomeranian didn't like him." Marvin nodded with a smile while saying, "Exactly. Mr. Bennett brought him out today because he had been so downhearted staying at home every day. Normally, Mr. Bennett is too busy to take him out." "Can you bring a dog to a place like this?" April asked. "Ordinary people can't, but Mr. Bennett isn't an ordinary man," Marvin responded. "Was Richard a police dog?" April suddenly recalled what she heard from Aaron earlier in the washroom. "Yeah, he was given to Mr. Bennett as a gift from Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins took part in a few large-scale drug busts in the country, and Richard used to follow him. Later on, Richard retired because of injuries, so Mr. Jenkins gave him to Mr. Bennett," explained Marvin. "Richard isn't as nimble as before, but he's still very sensitive to drugs and bad guys." April now understood why Aaron suspected that someone was using drugs in the washroom earlier. It seemed that he and Richard shared the same kind of past. Hearing that the conversation between April and Marvin was getting happier and happier, Aaron, who walked at the front, felt like he was being treated like an invisible man. Therefore, the look on his face turned sullen. "April just doesn't know how to keep a distance from other men. Since she wants me, she needs to build a good relationship with my assistant. But why does it seem that she has more to talk about with him than she has with me? We never did so much talking when she worked for me," he thought. "No wonder she hasn't had a boyfriend yet. She's doing it very wrong." When they were nearly at the main entrance of the club, Mr. Lennox suddenly showed up and yelled, one hand pressing the wound on his forehead while the other pointing at April. "Go, get her. She was the one who attacked me." Soon a few security guards rushed over and encircled Aaron, Marvin, and April. April glanced at Aaron and saw that he silently took a step backwards to shield her right. "Who are you? Piss off." Mr. Lennox was so angry that he shouted, trembling without even looking at Aaron. Aaron lazily raised his eyelids. His eyes were filled with coldness and disgust. He looked down at Mr. Lennox from head to toe. The latter seemed to be in his 40s, bald with fat shaking on his face. "You wanted April? She's too good for you, even before getting plastic surgery." He raised his eyebrows and asked, "Are you sure that you want to piss me off?" "Who are you? I've told you to piss off, so what?" yelled Mr. Lennox with his finger pointed at Aaron's nose. The leader of the security team, who stood beside Mr. Lennox, stared at Aaron for a short while. Suddenly his legs started to shiver. He grasped Mr. Lennox's arm and said, "Mr. Lennox, please, calm down. I think he's—" "Shut up. Are you people pigs? What are you waiting for? Go get her." Before he finished his words, his finger was suddenly gripped and broken by Aaron. He burst into screams because of the pain and nearly kneeled on the ground. "For a long time, no one has dared point a finger at me. The last person who told me to piss off doesn't even have the guts to come back to Rosewood City now." Aaron bent over to stare at Mr. Lennox in the eyes while saying with a deep and cold voice, "Look at yourself. You're like a toad drooling at a swan. No, calling you a toad would be a compliment to you." Mr. Lennox looked at him with a painful look. Aaron had no expression on his face, yet his eyes somehow made Mr. Lennox tremble with fear. However, Mr. Lennox had never suffered anything like this his whole life, so he yelled at the security guards to do something. Most of the security guards didn't dare to make any move as they saw that their leader seemed to flinch instead of stepping forward. A daring one who was eager to fawn on Mr. Lennox rushed forward, but before he could approach Aaron, Richard sprung up and threw him to the ground, showing a fierce look that made the rest of the security team draw backwards. "Get off me! Do you know who I am? I have friends in the police department," Mr. Lennox shouted out loud. Right before that, a large group of policemen walked in from the outside. "Police, this is a casual inspection. Move away." "Sir, save me." Mr. Lennox's eyes glowed when he recognized Sergeant Elliot, who was leading the group as if the latter was his life savior. Sergeant Elliot was responsible for this area, and he had met Mr. Lennox from a dinner party. "These bastards are making troubles in our club. Look, he has a dog. He broke my finger. I'm calling the police now. You should arrest them all," yelled Mr. Lennox. Sergeant Elliot glanced at him with disgust. Back at that dinner party, he already felt that Mr. Lennox was a brainless person, and now the latter seemed to be even stupider. How could any ordinary person bring a dog to a club like this? It must be a privilege given by the other shareholders. "Making troubles," said Sergeant He. "I think you're confused. Do you know who he is? He's the son of Commander Bennett, and Commander Bennett is the commander of the Rosewood City military region. He had served his time in the army and won the honor for our country when he was young. I'm telling you, someone turned your club in for improper trading tonight." When he finished speaking, he waved his hand. Following his move, the policeman behind him quickly rushed into the club to start a surprise inspection. Mr. Lennox's legs were softened. He couldn't have imagined that Aaron had such a powerful family background. But how could April Eisenberg know someone like Aaron? He silently cursed Rosaria for bringing him into such huge trouble. What was worse, the policeman arrived so suddenly tonight that he and his club had no preparation for it at all. It would be more than easy for the police to find plenty of evidence against him and the other owners of this place while they were unprepared. Seeing that the situation was going in a bad way for him, Mr. Lennox hurriedly dragged Sergeant He's arm and said fawningly, "Sergeant Elliot, you see—" Sergeant Elliot swept his hand away, then walked straight to Aaron and said, "Mr. Bennett, I've heard so much about you." Aaron glanced at him with a pair of dark eyes, then said with a deep and attractive voice, "Sergeant Elliot, how old are you?" 38, Sergeant He responded nervously. "It's the right age for you." After saying that, Aaron walked towards the front door. "Elliot's 38, so how could that say I've served my time in the army when I was young? Am I not young now?" thought Aaron. Sergeant uneasily shook his legs, then hurriedly asked Marvin, who was behind Aaron, "Did I say something wrong?" Marvin frowned and responded with, "I can't tell for sure, but don't worry. Mr. Bennett has always been respecting policemen." "I think you shouldn't say the words 'when he was young,'" April said with a low voice after hesitation. However, Aaron heard her clearly. He paused slightly, then continued walking, looking steadily forward. Under the hopeless situation, Mr. Lennox still wasn't willing to give up. He attempted to follow up to beg Aaron, but Richard stopped him from doing that and barked fiercely at him. Seeing that Mr. Lennox was frightened, Richard then proudly wagged his tail and hurriedly caught up with his owner. April coldly glared at the pale-faced Mr. Lennox. Somehow she felt good. She couldn't imagine how badly she would have suffered if she didn't luckily run into Aaron tonight. She walked out of the club to find that the rain had stopped. When she arrived earlier, the raindrops were falling on her skin, cold as ice. But when she left, she was wearing a man's jacket which was warm and soft. Episode 45. Truth about her age. April looked at the tall and sturdy man who walked before her, wearing only a shirt. As she prepared to give his jacket back to him, Aaron abruptly stopped, slightly turned his body to give her a sideways glance, then said, "Do you think I care about those 3 words? Do I look like such a narrow-minded person?" April didn't know how to respond. Out of shame, Marvin, as Aaron's assistant, really wanted to cover his own face at that moment. "Boss, you truly are a narrow-minded person. How could you say that so confidently?" Marvin thought. "April, are you okay?" Through the shadow of night, Winnie quickly walked in her direction. She was wearing a simply designed pair of ripped jeans and a baseball jacket with raindrops sparkling on her black and shiny ponytail. A few moist and tousled locks of hair were sticking on her delicate face, making her look beautiful and captivating. Marvin's heart skipped a beat. He quietly walked to Aaron and ventured to say in a low voice, "Mr. Bennett, Miss April didn't only make herself prettier. Her friend is pretty too." Aaron expressionlessly glanced at his assistant. "I'm all right," said April. She felt that her heart was warmed. Ever since Rosaria betrayed her, she didn't dare to believe any friend, but now she was somehow touched when she saw Winnie coming at her, wearing soaked clothes. "Why didn't you bring an umbrella?" she asked. "I didn't bring my umbrella when I left the dorm today. Earlier I left my work in a hurry, so I didn't have the time to borrow one." While speaking, Winnie was looking at the two young men beside April from head to toe. She felt that the two neatly dressed men don't look like bad guys. As his boss didn't seem to want to talk, Marvin stepped up and explained smilingly, "Hello, we're Miss April's friends. We happened to meet her at the club." Winnie turned to April. As April nodded, she finally stopped worrying. "Mr. Bennett, thank you for helping me today. It's late, so we should head back," she said. She took off the jacket and handed it to Aaron. Aaron stared at her exposed shoulders for a while, then responded with, "Put it on. Where do you live? I'll drive you." April paused and knitted her brows. The encounter between her and Aaron tonight was an accident. She didn't want Aaron to be a part of her current life. After all, they lived in two different worlds. "This place is far away from downtown. It's not safe for two pretty girls like you to take an Uber at night. Besides, it seems like it will start raining again soon. You don't have an umbrella. It's better for us to just drive you to where you live. We're all friends after all." Marvin smiled friendly and said, "Please wait here, I'll go get the car." After he finished talking, he quickly walked toward the parking lot without waiting for April to respond. Right at that moment, a few tiny drops of rain fell from the sky. Aaron bent over slightly to rub Richard's soft fur with one hand and with the other hand resting in his pocket. He didn't say anything. April and Winnie glanced at each other, both remaining silent. In the weird silence, Aaron knitted his brows tighter and tighter. Didn't April talk a lot about Richard with Marvin just now? I'm the one she likes, but why isn't she saying anything now? These thoughts annoyed his mind. How's she gonna chase me then? About 5 minutes later, Marvin showed up driving a black Maybach. The unique design of the car made Winnie show a surprised look in her eyes. She didn't know much about cars, but she understood that this car would be one of the newest luxury vehicles on the market, as she hadn't seen any car like it before. "Is this a new car?" asked April smilingly. "Mm-hmm," Aaron responded. Marvin got out of the car to open the back seat door. Aaron bent over to get into the car with Richard. April glanced at the empty front seat. Winnie was there, so she had no reason to take the front seat and leave Winnie to sit in the back seat with Aaron. Therefore, she had no choice but to take the back seat as well. When Winnie sat in the front seat, Marvin started the car. "Please send us to Langford College of Communication," said Winnie politely. "Are you studying there?" Marvin gave a start and asked. "That's impossible," Aaron snorted coldly and said. "How can she possibly get into Langford at her age?" Winnie knew that Aaron wasn't talking about her, so out of curiosity she asked, "What about April's age? She's young, isn't she?" "Young?" Aaron frowned. His heart leapt as he abruptly turned to the beautiful lady beside her and asked, "Aren't you 30? Did you lie to me?" "Sorry, Mr. Bennett," April responded apologetically. "I lied about my real age for work. Actually, I'm 22. 22? Aaron found himself having trouble remaining calm at that comment. He uncrossed his legs, eyes showing a trace of anger. "Why did you lie to me? How ridiculous. What's so inconvenient about your work?" He didn't understand. Was she worrying that I might have some improper thoughts about her? How ridiculous. If that's true, I must look like an idiot in her eyes, and I always said that she's older than me, so I'd never want to be with her. But in fact, she was actually younger than him, so her age wouldn't be a problem. What was she thinking back at that time, sneakily laughing at me for not being able to tell her true age? Was it because she believed that she wouldn't have a chance even if she told me about her true age, as she hadn't taken her plastic surgeries? Does she think that she now has a chance because her plastic surgeries are successful? Aaron had lots of thoughts at that moment. Marvin sensed that the atmosphere in the car had suddenly turned cold, so he hurriedly explained for April. "I think Miss April lied about her age because she worried that her patients might think of a 22-year-old girl as inexperienced and unreliable. I think that's why she told us that she's 30, right?" "Yeah." April gratefully glanced at Marvin and nodded. I still felt you were inexperienced and unreliable even though I thought that you're 30. The look on Aaron's face turned slightly better, but he still was angry. What kind of nursing care center you're from? They're so unprofessional. How dare they lie about the age of their employee? Can they fake the certificates of capabilities too? David just couldn't do the job properly. Back then he told me that your care center is recommended by a friend. The older he gets, the more muddle-headed he became. Hearing his words, April was frightened. It seemed that she had gotten both David and Sister Leah from the care center into trouble. That has nothing to do with David and Sister Leah, she explained. Sister Leah from the nursing care center kindly helped me because I was far away from home with no one to rely on at that time. But of course she had tested me for my professional skills before agreeing to help me. The nursing care center is undoubtedly professional. Did you recover quickly under my care? That's the best proof. Aaron snorted proudly. The others couldn't tell if he agreed with April or not. Marvin hurriedly changed the topic. So, Miss April and Miss Winnie, are you both studying in Langford? What major? You're not planning on becoming stars, are you? Winnie, too, had felt that the atmosphere in the back seat was a little strange, so she responded with, April is majoring in broadcasting while I'm doing it in music. We're roommates. You both have beautiful voices, said Marvin knowingly. It seems that you're cut out for your chosen majors, but since you're both so pretty, I think you're going to be very popular if you become stars. How can it be that easy? Said April smilingly. Do you want to be a star? Aaron abruptly raised his eyebrows and asked a question while rubbing Richard's head. No, I just want to be a voice actor. April shook her head and said, That's such a pity for you to only be a voice actor because you're so beautiful, said Marvin smilingly. I'm flattered, April responded also with a smile. Aaron narrowed his eyes. Why can she talk with Marvin so happily? He thought. Suddenly he had an urge to throw Marvin out of the car. How could an assistant be so talkative in front of his boss? Episode 46. Eye Contact. In fact, our company often holds large-scale activities that need hosts, Miss April. Since you're majoring in broadcasting, I suppose you have some experience regarding hosting. Can I get your number? We may have several opportunities to work together. Marvin continued as he didn't see the unhappy look on his boss's face. Yes, of course. April's eyes glowed. She needed to earn more money, and she believed that even Isaac wasn't powerful enough to stop Arrington from hiring her. Marvin handed his phone to April from the driver's seat. Then April typed in her number. Watching this, Aaron somehow felt very unsatisfied, so he said in a weird tone, Marvin, don't you think that you're acting too unprofessional as my assistant? You only know that she's majoring in broadcasting, but do you know a thing about her professional skills? Marvin felt embarrassed. He thought to himself, I'm doing it for you. Everyone knows that you've been unhappy since April left. I'm trying to create more chances for you two to meet each other in the future. And earlier, you generously helped April, but now you're saying such mean words, Mr. Bennett. Your EQ is seriously a disaster. You're not going to get a girlfriend if you stay this way, he complained silently. Mr. Bennett, I believe my professional skills aren't worse than that of anybody else. April wasn't angry, but looked straight at Aaron confidently. I don't want to argue with you about that. Marvin is my assistant. He'll know after testing. Facing the serious look in April's black and shining eyes, Aaron proudly raised his chin, then turned his face away. Marvin felt speechless. A minute ago, his boss criticized him for being unprofessional about hiring people, but now he believed in him when testing April. Mr. Bennett, you're really good at ending all sorts of conversations. You're about to waste up all the favorable impressions that you've left upon her earlier when you saved her, he thought. April handed the phone to Marvin and said, Marvin, your phone. I've added you. Good. Marvin took the phone while driving, then conveniently handed it to Winnie, who was sitting beside him. Pretty lady, could you add me as well? I don't know your name yet. April raised her eyebrows. Maybe it was because she was a sensitive girl, but she sensed that something was not quite right. My name is Winnie Schmidt. Winnie hesitated slightly, then typed in her number. That's a lovely name, especially the Winnie part. It means pure and fair. The name fits the person, said Marvin smilingly. Winnie smiled shyly. Aaron watched his assistant get the numbers of two ladies within such a short time and talked cheerfully and humorously with them. He never knew about this ability of Marvin before, and now he felt that he had nearly made himself invisible. He glanced at April, who sat beside him. When he found that she was leaning her head towards the front seat as if she wanted so badly to join Marvin and Winnie, he somehow felt unhappy. So he pulled the dog leash hard. Being dragged by the leash on his neck, the huge Richard began twisting his body, and April, who sat beside the dog, instantly felt squished. "Richard, what's wrong?" She gently rubbed Richard's neck. Richard howled, then tried to hide in her arms. Seeing that, Aaron pulled the leash even harder. It was dark in the car, so April didn't see him doing it. Richard felt uncomfortable and tried very hard to move towards the other side of the car. The back seat was roomy, but Richard was gigantic. When Richard crawled onto April's laps, she felt a little uncomfortable, so she had no choice but to move slightly toward Aaron. After Richard occupied a part of April's seat, he began crawling on her laps uneasily. The dog's neck brushed against her face over and over again. "Richard, stop moving!" April was trying to dodge the whole time. Her soft voice only made Richard naughtier and move more quickly. Before April could have noticed, her body was pressed together with Aaron's. Her exposed knees and lower legs were right next to his long legs, her arm was brushing against his arm, and her face was almost putting on his shoulder. She felt awkward, and her body was tightened. She thought that Aaron was probably getting angry, so she sneakily raised her head and saw that he was looking out of the car window, but at that moment, he suddenly turned his head back to meet her gaze. It was dark in the car. The light of the street lamp poured in through the car windows, made his dark eyes sparkle dimly, like the night sky which was decorated with stars. His perfectly shaped face was slightly blurred by the darkness, looking even more attractive. April felt that Aaron should quit talking. When he stayed silent, his appearance and the look in his eyes could count as perfect, just like now. Looking at him like that, April felt that her heart even missed a beat. Aaron was staring back at her. In the narrow back seat, which was filled with the scent of her unknown shampoo and the natural aroma of her body, he found that her eyes were even brighter and more tempting in the hazy darkness of night. After pausing slightly in the eye contact, he dropped his eyes to focus on her moisturized and full lips, which was only about a foot away from his face. A long time ago, he had noticed that she had beautiful lips which looked like jelly. He wondered if those lips tasted like jelly too. Right now, they were in the perfect position for kissing. Suddenly, he sensed dryness in his chest. He felt that he might have drunk too much wine. Otherwise, why did he feel so hot and thirsty now? That hot and dry feeling made him want to taste her lips very badly. He believed that the inside of her mouth would taste even better. He clenched the dog leash in his hand and gritted his teeth. She's getting better at luring people. She's not majoring in broadcasting, she's majoring in how to seduce men, he thought. But how could he make that kiss now? Marvin and Winnie were still sitting in the front, and if he did it, he might make himself look flappable. How could he fall into her trap so soon? It had only been a while since he met her in the club. While he was fighting with himself, April suddenly turned her face away to look at the front. Aaron felt utterly speechless. He believed that April did it on purpose. She turned her face away when his body was aroused, and while doing that, her soft breast squeezed across his arm. He was only wearing a shirt, so he felt it both clearly and vaguely, and that was very tantalizing. His face darkened. He had no other choice but to yell at Richard. "Richard, stop moving. If you move again, I'll throw you out of the car." Richard blinked, then moaned and rested his head on April's laps. His ear was pressing against April's chest. Soon the poor dog sensed a cold vibe from his owner. 8 o'clock at night was the time when the nightlife of Rosewood City began, so the traffic was quite busy. When they nearly arrived at the college, 40 minutes had passed. When the car was still a distance away from the front entrance of the college, April asked Marvin to pull over. "Drop us here. Winnie and I are going to get some food," she said. "I don't see any store here." Aaron glanced out of the window and said coldly, "We'll just take a walk." April tucked her hair behind her ear. "Miss April is worrying that people might talk upon seeing a luxury car pulling over before the front door of a college, right?" Marvin pointed out the truth. April felt a little embarrassed while Winnie responded frankly, "In our school, the competition between students is intense. April is known as the prettiest girl in the broadcasting department. If anyone saw her getting out of a luxury car or took a picture of it and had it uploaded to the campus network, people would talk in a bad way." Episode 47. Give me your number. Aaron raised his eyebrows and snorted carelessly. "She's the prettiest? It seems that the quality of girls in your broadcasting department isn't high at all," he said. Everyone else fell into a short silence. Marvin coughed slightly while April pretended to not have heard him. Winnie's lying. Our broadcast department is full of beautiful girls, but Winnie is the prettiest girl in the music major, and that's for sure, said April. That makes more sense, said Aaron. Marvin wanted to cry. Boss, do you have to say bad things to April to make yourself comfortable? Winnie opened the door and said, So we're leaving. April took off the jacket and said, Goodbye, Mr. Bennett. Here's your jacket. Wear it. It's cold outside, he said. As April felt that he finally said something nice, he added, And you've made my jacket dirty. Are you going to clean it for me? It's not dirty, she said. It is, he said in a strong tone. April was speechless. All right, if you say so, she thought. Then I'll contact Marvin and ask him to return it to you after I've gotten it dry cleaned, she said. Aaron frowned. He didn't understand why she wanted to return the jacket through Marvin, as he was obviously offering her a chance to contact him. Wash it with your hands. I don't like irrelevant people touching my clothes. April clenched her teeth. Why does he have to be so picky? All right, she said. He gave her a sideways glance again and said, Just call me when you've cleaned it. Isn't it obvious enough for you? I'm giving you a chance, he thought. April got a little surprised and said, But I don't have your number. Didn't I give it to you during the last New Year? He said angrily. You didn't delete it, did you? April didn't know what to say. She felt that Aaron would beat her to death in the car if she told him that she had deleted it. I lost my phone, so I lost your number as well, she said. Couldn't you just reissue your SIM card? He asked. I accidentally saved your number on my phone, so it got lost with my phone. April continued lying to him with a low voice. You're dumb. Aaron gave her a dagger-sharp glance and then said, Well, in case you lose your phone again, let me add you on WhatsApp too. While speaking, he took out his phone and handed it to April. Give me your number. Marvin, who sat in the driver's seat, smiled. Boss, you just wanted her number. Why do you have to make the whole thing so complicated? He thought. April glanced at him, then carefully typed in her number. His name on the app's display contained 2 simple words, CEO Bennett. It was typical of his style, as if he was worried that the others might not know that he's a CEO. After April gave his phone back, he proudly warned her, Keep your WhatsApp account safe. If you lose it, I won't give you my number again. Will do, thank you, Mr. Bennett. April wore a grateful smile. Aaron gave him a faint smile and said, Marvin, go get them an umbrella from the trunk. Sure. Marvin got out of the car and took out an almond-colored umbrella from the trunk for April and Winnie. Aaron rolled down the car window to show his face and then said, This umbrella is expensive. Don't forget to give it back to me. Winnie didn't know what to say. How expensive is it? April said through clenched teeth. We don't need an umbrella. Don't lend it to me. Aaron raised an eyebrow, thinking she was angry. Do you want me to give it to you? He asked. He wasn't a stingy person, but he believed that one shouldn't give another one an umbrella as a gift without consideration. He believed that if he gave her an umbrella as a gift, he would need to keep her sheltered for the rest of her life. April sighed, wondering if her words could really make him misunderstand so easily. No, you said that this umbrella was expensive, so how could I take it? She said. Since you want it, I'll give it to you, he said. I didn't say that I want it. April was nearly driven crazy. Aaron glanced at her as if saying, Stop pretending. Take it. You can get yourself wet, but not my jacket, he said. April honestly didn't know how to respond. She doubted that Aaron could ever have a girlfriend. Earlier in the car, her heart thumped slightly, but now she believed that it was because that something was wrong with her heart. Don't worry, I'll definitely take good care of your jacket. I won't let it get even a little bit wet, she said. While watching the 2 girls gradually fading away in the darkness of the night with the umbrella, Aaron lost in his thoughts. Marvin sat back in the car and started the car. Suddenly, he heard his boss's voice coming from the back seat. Do you like April? Asked Aaron. No? The startled Marvin coughed loudly, then responded, So do you like the one named Winnie? Marvin rubbed his head, smiled, and said shyly, Mr. Bennett, you see, I'm almost 30, but I haven't got any girlfriend yet. I had feelings for that girl the very first sight. April is pretty too now. Why didn't you have feelings for her? Aaron asked. Marvin failed to detect the hidden meaning of his boss's words, but replied coyly, It's probably because I've known her for long and I prefer to love at first sight. Besides, didn't you say that you're the one she likes? But of course he had no courage to say that. It was Aaron's narcissistic imagination. Do you know that too? Aaron didn't notice that his lips curved slightly in a smile when he said that. Is that why you told her to wait for me in the club tonight? Mr. Bennett, what are you talking about? Marvin was confused. Stop pretending. She was in the club tonight because you told her that I'd be there, right? Said Aaron slowly. Don't do such things next time. It's not safe for a girl to go to clubs wearing like that. He refused to believe that the encounter between him and April in the washroom was really a coincidence. Marvin honestly felt speechless at that point. Mr. Bennett, I really didn't. I haven't been in contact with April for a very long time. I don't even know her number, he said. Aaron stared at him closely for a while and found that he didn't seem to be pretending. Then it must be Sister Emily. Such a liar. She told me that she isn't in contact with April. Marvin sighed and gave a bitter smile. Mr. Bennett, why do you believe that April was in the club tonight because of you? He really wanted to ask him this. Poor Sister Emily bore the blame without even knowing what had happened. Now you have added April on WhatsApp. She might be too shy to talk to me directly, so if she ever asked you anything about me, you can tell her something, said Aaron in a complicated way. I've been thinking on our way here. She even took plastic surgeries for me. Clearly, she's been doing a lot for me. And among all the women I knew in these years, she's the one who loves me the deepest. Earlier, I thought that she's older than me, but today I found out that she's actually just 22. I think we can try to know a little bit about each other. After all, I'm getting old, and it's the time for me to try having a girlfriend. And more importantly, the private part of his body only felt something when she was around. Plastic surgeries? After spending quite a while processing what Aaron said, Marvin managed to squeeze 2 words out of his mouth. Marvin coughed slightly and said, Mr. Bennett, may I ask a question? Why do you feel that she has had plastic surgeries? Aaron paused briefly and then responded, You remember the way she used to look like, don't you? You see, she's nothing like before now. Can a person ever change so much without taking plastic surgeries? Episode 48. I think he's kinda into you. She did change a lot, but more or less her face would look unnatural and stiff after plastic surgery. However, Miss April's face looks very natural, Marvin said. In fact, Miss April always had a straight nose and beautiful lips, and her face seemed to be nicely shaped as well, but she used to dress in an old-fashioned way and wear a large pair of glasses to cover her eyes. And her hair used to look messy and unbrushed. I think that's why she didn't look pretty at that time. Women can make themselves pretty with some effort. People say that there are only lazy women, not ugly women. Do you mean that April didn't have plastic surgery? That she was born so pretty? Aaron asked frowningly. But why did she do that? He had a thought in his head, but he wasn't willing to admit it. Have I been misunderstanding her this whole time? That doesn't make sense. He was so perfect. In his company, he defeated Richard and topped the ranking list of handsome men. He was even known as the youngest genius businessman by people from the business world. How could she possibly not like him? Not to mention that she had admitted that. Soon he denied that possibility. That's impossible, he thought. Marvin wanted very much to tell Aaron that April might have just been worried about workplace harassment and perhaps she never wanted to be together with him. However, he didn't want to hurt his boss's feelings, so at last he avoided answering the question but responded with, I don't know. Maybe she has her own reasons. Aaron pressed his thin lips together. He believed that April had secret plans. Plastic surgeries were, of course, possible as well, as cosmetic medicines were highly developed now, and Marvin's eyes could be fooled. Many current female stars had plastic surgeries, but they got doctor's certificates to prove that they didn't, he thought. That Mr. Lennox, a while later, Aaron said with a deep voice, Tell the people from relevant departments to find some solid evidence against him and keep him in prison for the next 10 years. He's so ugly. He shouldn't be out here scaring people. That narrow-minded man would definitely bring trouble to April if they let him out of prison. All right. Marvin silently looked at his own face from the rearview mirror. Fortunately, he wasn't ugly. Make the fantasy club close down. That place is owned by people like Mr. Lennox, so it's not clean. Don't let any other women be harmed in that place, he continued. Will do. Marvin glanced at the rich and powerful man sitting in the back seat, knowing that because of what this man had said just now, the fantasy club, which was only available for high society people, was doomed tonight. Mr. Lennox offended him, and those were the consequences. No one from the political circle or the business circle could afford to offend him. He was like a prince. Under the neon lamps, all sorts of food stands were opening by the sides of the streets in the college town. April, who hadn't had dinner yet, bought a bucket of chicken wings to share with Winnie. The chicken wings smelled so good that it made her drool. While eating, Winnie stared at the umbrella handle and asked, "This umbrella is from a Swiss company. According to the mark on it, it's customized. Judging by its fabric, I think it's worth at least $200. April wasn't surprised at all. After all, she had a box of chocolates given by him worth nearly $100, and the jacket she was wearing at the moment was worth tens of thousands of dollars as well. "I'll give it back to him," she said. Winnie glanced at her, then abruptly asked, "I heard your conversation in the car. Did you work for him as a caretaker? He doesn't look like an ordinary rich person. His car is worth $200,000 at least. He showed a dry sense of humor when talking, something women normally don't like, but I think he's a nice person inside." Hearing the words, "women usually don't like," April nearly choked on a piece of the chicken wings. But then April felt that Winnie's comment about Aaron was quite pertinent and funny, so she responded with, "You're actually quite right." She wanted to know how grumpy Aaron would be if he heard what Winnie had said. "Mr. Bennett isn't a bad person," she smiled and continued. That was the only comment she could make about him. "He's handsome indeed, but I don't think normal women will fancy men like him. After all, he always liked to say mean words. For that reason, he often made her feel like she was being showered by a bucket of icy cold water right after letting her sense a slight bit of warmth. What kind of strong-hearted people could live with that? But I feel that Mr. Bennett is kind of into you." Winnie poked April's arm with her elbow and said with a faint smile. April felt lucky that she shouldn't put another piece of chicken into her mouth or she'd have choked again. "Don't be ridiculous. You don't understand," she said. She believed that he was simply narcissistic enough to think that she loved him very deeply. "And I think Marvin likes you. Did you see how talkative he was in front of you? I know him. He's never been a talker. He found an excuse to save my number, but I think you're the one he really wanted to add. He was afraid that you might say no," she then said to Winnie. "I have a boyfriend." Winnie shook her head and said. April paused for a while with surprise and then said, "Why did you never tell anyone?" "He's not here. We're maintaining a long-distance relationship and we don't see each other often. That's why you didn't know. And there's not much to tell about him." Winnie curved her lips in a smile and said. Seeing the overt sweetness showing in Winnie's face, April ended this conversation without asking any other questions. She used to be in love too, so she knew that Winnie and her boyfriend must love each other. Winnie didn't ask any more questions either, as she too knew that she should respect others. When they returned to the dorm, Annie, who was doing a facial mask, asked with surprise upon seeing that April and Winnie were together. "April, Marianne said that you'd be in fantasy club tonight. Why are you with Winnie? And why did you come back so early?" "I left the club after dinner. Met Winnie on the way back." April didn't want to tell her about what had happened today. "I heard that fantasy club is quite fancy. How did you get a chance to go there?" Annie walked to April and continued, "Aren't you doing any dubbing work recently?" "I didn't pass the interview with Director Dixon last time, and I haven't found any other voiceover jobs, so I got myself a temporary assistance job. Tonight my boss went to fantasy club, so I went with her to carry her bag and do other things like that." While speaking, April lowered her head and put Aaron's jacket on the bed. "Is that a man's jacket?" Annie noticed the jacket long ago. "It looks expensive." "Wow, April, you didn't meet a handsome rich man in the club, did you? He even lent you his jacket." "Don't mention it. I've experienced something quite unpleasant in the club. Fortunately, I met a kind person who helped me and lent me a jacket. I'm a little tired, so I'm going to take a shower now." April was really tired. After letting out a long sigh of relief, she went straight to the bathroom. Annie turned to Winnie with confusion. "Stop gossiping. We've worked the whole day, so we're both tired." Winnie patted her on the shoulder. "April, no matter how tired you are, you must go to the premiere of Ryan Rodriguez's new movie the day after tomorrow," Annie said loudly towards the bathroom to remind April. "Marianne said that she won't go with us because her company was invited too. She's going with her boss." April paused, then responded with, "Well, since Marianne isn't going with us, I don't think we should go." "No, I want to go," said Annie pitifully. "And are you crazy? Ryan Rodriguez invited you right in front of so many people. It'd be disrespectful if you don't go. Besides, he's so handsome. But you're not attracted by him at all. April, you're not a lesbian, are you? Episode 49. Go check Twitter. April tilted her head and pretended to think for a moment, then said, You guessed right. In fact, I fell for you the first time I saw you. Annie shivered, then laughed and yelled, Piss off! You made me so sick that I couldn't even eat my midnight snacks. As it was the second semester of the third year at her college, April didn't have many classes to attend. So the next morning, she took the bus to where Rosaria lived. The place was called City View International. Elena was surprised when she opened the door and saw April. How did you... April gave a sarcastic smile and asked, What? Elena wanted to ask why April showed up so early. She thought that April must have nearly been tortured to death in a bed by Mr. Lennox last night, so she didn't understand how could the latter show up so early looking perfectly unharmed. However, Elena soon calmed down and said, Nothing. Since you're here, you should start working right now. Hurry up and help pack Rosaria's stuff. She's going to the filming site today. You're going with her. Is she going to work on a movie? April sneered silently. She'd like to know if Rosaria was still in a good mood for acting today. Last night, April didn't sleep much. Instead, she spent the night online. She found a few bloggers who liked to say bad things about Rosaria, so she sent them anonymous messages telling them that Mr. Lennox, the shareholder of Fantasy Club, was arrested tonight, and before that, he had dinner with Rosaria. These bloggers all owned chat groups and were all fans of Rosaria's competitors. Therefore, they would certainly try to spread the news as widely as they could. As the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility, and Rosaria was definitely abusing her power. She became famous and powerful very quickly, which had brought discontent to some other female stars and their fans. Because of Isaac, other stars didn't dare to offend Rosaria. However, their fans were all over the country and were young and fearless. Perhaps Isaac could silence the voice of these fans on the internet and other media sources, but April believed that he couldn't manage to do so within a short time, and that the news she had spread would definitely bring Rosaria in some trouble. She, April Eisenberg, was just an ordinary person, and her words carried little weight, but she still couldn't let herself be hurt by anyone limitlessly. Who's here? Footsteps were heard from upstairs. Rosaria walked down with a pink purse. Seeing April, she paused for a short moment, then smiled immediately and said, April, you're early. I thought you'd be a little late as you were drunk last night. Yeah, I was drunk last night. When I woke up, you all left. April didn't plan to tell Rosaria that she knew about her evil plan. Saying it out loud would be meaningless, and she couldn't do anything to Rosaria. The worst she could do at the moment was merely curse at her. Rosaria observed April while walking toward her. Soon she started to have some doubts as she detected no despair or anger from April's face, as if the latter hadn't suffered anything at all. I'm sorry, I had something to do last night, so I left early. I was going to take you with me, but you refused to go, so I sent Elena to pick you up afterwards. April was speechless. Rosaria was such a natural liar. Did Elena come to pick me up? Then you should both know that what has happened to Mr. Lennox, right? Rosaria paused with surprise, thinking that April might have hurt Mr. Lennox last night. Mr. Lennox is a powerful man. What could have possibly happened to him? He got arrested, April sighed and said. Last night, soon after you left, a large group of policemen showed up and did a surprise check. It said that they arrested quite a lot of people who were doing improper tradings right off the spot. I heard that one of them is a female web star who has been famous lately. Mr. Lennox was arrested right in the club, and Fantasy is closed down. You go to Fantasy quite often. How could you not know about such big news? Rosaria's expression changed instantly. She quickly made an eye contact with Elena and then yelled at April. I didn't go to that place often. I've even only been in Rosewood City a few times. I see. Last night at the dinner, it seemed like you and Mr. Lennox were good friends. April shrugged and said, All right, since you like pretending, I'll pretend with you, she thought. April, go take these bags downstairs and put them in the car. Elena pointed at the bags with her chin while giving an order. Sure. April lifted the bags, then turned and left. Right after that, Elena shut the door and asked Rosaria, Why is Mr. Lennox arrested? Didn't you say that nothing would go wrong? Did April do that? Fantasy has earned its fame because of its solid background. Which ordinary person would dare to lay a finger on it? Even the police wouldn't arrest anyone from that club without consideration. Could the powerless April possibly manage to do that? Said Rosaria with a serious face. Maybe the club owners have offended someone. April was really lucky last night. I can't believe I failed to destroy her last night. Mr. Lennox is arrested in an anti-vice action, so if anyone knows that you had dinner with him in the club last night... Elena glanced at Rosaria with hesitation, then continued, if the public knows, things will become a little troublesome. People may think that you were making some kind of improper trade with Eisenberg Group and Mr. Lennox. The look on Rosaria's face changed as she said, April knows. Elena closed her eyes and said, don't overthink the issue. Even if there would really be a problem, Mr. Davidson will solve it for you. Before her voice faded, Rosaria's cell phone began ringing. Isaac's name was showing on the screen. Hopefully he's not calling for that. Rosaria took a deep breath, then answered the phone and immediately heard Isaac's icy cold voice. I've only left for 1 day. What stupid thing did you do last night? Rosaria clenched her teeth and said, Mr. Davidson, what's happening? You're asking me? Isaac sounded quite angry. Go check Twitter yourself. Everyone is saying that you were in Fantasy Club last night before it was closed down. Some people even claimed to saw you having dinner with Mr. Lennox. Did you know what he's arrested for? Multiple underage girls testified that he had forced to make improper trades with him, and a few girls from the club said that he had drugged them and forced them to sleep with some high-positioned people. The police closed the club down last night, and there are pictures from the scene. Rosaria gave a start and asked, Is there a picture of me? Mr. Davidson, I had dinner with Mr. Lennox last night because of the project that he's going to do together with Eisenberg Studios. I was trying to help you, she added with a trembling voice. Did I ask you to help me? Besides, I've never even thought about working with someone like him, said Isaac wrathfully. You just can't do anything right. Now people are talking online about how Eisenberg Studios makes their actresses sleep with Mr. Lennox in exchange for work. They found out about the film Mr. Lennox invested in last year. That's one of our films. This whole thing has caused a negative influence on the company. If you're not useful, I'll have to destroy you already. So sorry, Rosaria almost cried. I'll never do anything like that again without your permission, Mr. Davidson. Please help me. Watch your behavior. Fantasy Club has a strong background, but it was torn down. The club owners must have offended someone really powerful. Isaac remained silent for a short while, then said to Rosaria in a low voice, Fortunately, there isn't a picture of you in the club this time, and the people who are talking online don't have any background. They're just some fans. Rosaria sighed with relief. She understood that Isaac was willing to solve the problem for her. Thank you, she said. Episode 50. Get me a sister-in-law. Did you go out with April last night? Isaac asked another question, but in a much softer tone. Her? Rosaria sensed jealousy from the bottom of her heart. Yeah, but we left after dinner, she said. Huh. I'll be back tomorrow, Isaac responded, then hung up the phone. Rosaria looked at her cell phone, eyes slightly red. Later, she sneered at Elena and said, See, I was right to keep April around, wasn't I? April has disappeared for 2 years. During that time, I could only see him when I went to the company. But now he just can't wait to come back, even though he only left for 1 day. I heard that he had many things to do back in Lukesville at this time. I thought he'd need 3 or 4 days to finish all of his work, even longer. But I was wrong. I guess because of April, he couldn't even sleep last night. Ms. Miller, Elena sighed. Don't worry, I'm not jealous of her. I just need more opportunities to spend time with him so I can make it more possible for him to fall in love with me. As for April, I'll send her to hell sooner or later. Rosaria's beautiful face twisted into a vicious look. April waited in the parking lot for 20 minutes before Rosaria showed up proudly wearing a pair of sunglasses. She frowned and thought, Why are you wearing sunglasses in the dark parking lot? Can you even see me? Aren't you afraid that you might fall to the ground? Rosaria walked in her direction, stared at her, and then said, It's you who spread the news about me that I was in the club last night, right? April gave a bright smile and responded, No, I didn't do it. She wasn't surprised that Rosaria found out so soon. You can deny it, but I know it's you, said Rosaria coldly. April Eisenberg, mind your ways. I can still decide if Supervisor Sullivan's web series can be aired or not. You better behave yourself from now on. If your friends and classmates learned that you're Kenneth Eisenberg's daughter, they wouldn't even talk to you anymore. April's face darkened slowly. Rosaria continued, Don't think that you can defeat me with these small tricks. Your ex-boyfriend is so capable that he'll probably have the problem solved before we walk out of this parking lot. April remained silent. She felt her heart twist, especially when she heard that Isaac was helping Rosaria again. She really wanted to throw a few heavy slaps at Isaac's face, then break his skull to check his brain. She could accept the fact that he didn't like her, but could never understand why he fell for Rosaria. How could his taste be so awful? April took a deep breath and then smiled and responded with, Do you expect me to be jealous of you? Sorry, I just wanted to thank you for bringing Isaac away from me. He's a piece of junk to me. You only say that because you can never have him, Rosaria said sarcastically, and then turned to get into the car. Get in. Don't make me late for the film, she continued. April silently bent over and got into the vanity van. At the filming site, April found that Rosaria didn't have much work to do. Most of the time, she just sat in a chair and asked April to get her water, fan her, or hold her umbrella. The weather in Rosewood City had been changing sharply these days. The difference between the air temperatures of sunny days and rainy days was over 10 degrees. Yesterday was cold with rain, but today was a scorching, hot, sunny day. The filming site was near the beach, so after spending a day there, April's exposed skin had already tanned. After a day and a night spending at the filming site, the exhausted April returned to her dorm. Annie paused in shock when seeing her and asked, Did you get a coal mining job? April gave a bitter smile. She would rather mine coal than work for the lunatic Rosaria. April, I know that you were born pretty, but you can't be careless about your appearance, said Annie while doing her makeup. To art students like us, appearance is as important as talent. April lied on her bed, thinking that Rosaria must be planning to make her look tan. Get up and get dressed. We're going to Ryan Rodriguez's premiere. You look awful now. Annie tried to drag April off the bed. It's Ryan's premiere, not mine. April was so exhausted that she didn't even want to move a finger. Winnie, talk to her. Annie waved at Winnie. The constant pestering by her two roommates finally convinced April. She was changed into a long velvet dress and wore a chiffon blouse like a shrug. It was off the shoulder and made her look a little sexy. The three of them took the subway to the Century Mall. On their way, when they were squeezed into those chairs, April glanced at Winnie and found that she was looking at the text messages on her phone. Did Marvin message you? Asked April. Yeah, he wants to know what I'm doing, said Winnie helplessly. I told him that I'm on my way to the premiere. Didn't you reject him? Said April. He didn't even tell me that he likes me. What should I reject him for? I just found a way to let him know that I have a boyfriend. I thought he'd shrink back, but he started to ask me some questions about music. He said that he likes music and he wants to be friends with me so we can talk about music. Forget it, I won't reply to him. I don't want an ambiguous relationship with him. He wants to steal you from your boyfriend, April laughed and said. Arrington Investment, 5 o'clock in the afternoon at sunset. Aaron finished the last part of his job, then stretched his body. Lately, the company didn't have any large-scale projects for him to work on, and the small cases were all handled by his employees. Therefore, he suddenly felt a little bored. However, the weather had been nice recently, so he really didn't want to go back home alone to face Sister Emily's chubby face and David's wrinkled face. He thought for a moment, then called Richard. You haven't left work, have you? Do you want to go for a drink? He asked. Sorry, I've left work long ago. I have a date with a pretty lady today. We're going for dinner and clubbing later. Richard chuckled and responded with, Little Benny, you need to stop bothering me. I'm an adult man and I don't have a low libido like yours. I need some nourishment for my life. Who's been bothering you? Aaron with a grumpy look. It's just that I feel more comfortable to go out with you than with Max Urban and the others. It seems that those people are getting along well with me, but in fact, they just want to fawn on me, and that makes me uncomfortable. That's true, but understandable. You're rich and famous, so everyone wants to get something from you. But sticking with me isn't a solution for you. People might think that we're a gay couple. If you're really bored, why don't you call Sylvia? You don't care about your little sister enough. If I have an adorable sister like her, I'd treat her like a princess. Piss off. I'd never want to be a gay couple with you. Aaron directly hung up the phone. He dropped his eyes and spent a short while thinking and then dialed Sylvia's number. Are you off duty? Do you want to have dinner together? Brother, I'm working overtime, doing official business. Now is the crucial time for my potential promotion. Don't get in my way, said Sylvia seriously. Aaron didn't even know how to respond. Didn't his sister know that fawning on him was a better way to promotion? Brother, I know you have lots of free time, but not everyone is like you. You should hurry up and get me a sister-in-law. You're not young anymore. Again, Aaron hung up the phone. He paced in the office for a while with anger and then gripped his coat and walked out in large steps. When walking past Marvin's table, he saw that the latter was staring at his phone, seeming to be lost in thoughts. Are you chasing that girl named Winnie? Aaron paused and asked. Seeing the disappointed look on Marvin's face, he continued, Failed? Startled by his voice, Marvin hurriedly stood up and responded with, I was going to ask her to have dinner with me tonight, but she said that she's going to Fake Love's premiere with her roommates.